5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
You're listening to Tabletop and Beyond with your host, Justin.
But before we get started, how was your Geek Week?
And co-hosts Dan and Jason.
You have to be willing to let the dice help you tell the story.
Okay, look, this year I'm going to stop mispronouncing words. Join us as we cover board games to war games and beyond.
Welcome to Tabletop and Beyond. I'm your host, Justin. This is our TALKIN Warhammer session. I know it's a little bit early, everybody, but with the NOVA Open just wrapping up, I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to talk to one of the winners of the NOVA Open, Kaleb Walters. Kaleb, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
So your brother Scooter beat you to the punch on getting on the show, though. So
he beat me to the punch. Well, you know, yeah. I have to let him beat me every once in a while.
You didn't do it at the NOVA Open, but we're going to get into that later, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you on here. I wanted you on here earlier because you have racked up some very impressive wins over the last year. You are the reigning U.S. Open champion that you won down in New Orleans last year, and I believe, sir, you have a golden ticket for this year's championship as well.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to win, best general at NOVA. So got that golden ticket. Very excited to have a possible repeat. So
I thought you had won before then to get a golden ticket, but I guess I'm wrong.
Well, you know, I don't know how they do it. So last year, I did talk to Mike, who actually runs all the U.S. Open. I wasn't sure if they give a golden ticket to the person who actually won last year's, exhibition match. Because, of course, I won a ticket at New Orleans, and then when I went to Texas to play against all the best overall players, I was lucky enough to beat everyone down there as well. And so, of course, I think they said my name's going to show up first on, the hammer. Haven't had an opportunity to see it in person, but that was very cool. So I wasn't sure if they're offering one for that. I did get third best overall at Adepticon, but they only award one ticket for Adepticon, and I was lucky enough to win NOVA.
I've seen the hammer. I saw it at Gen Con.
How's it look?
It has your name on it.
Awesome.
I said, hey, I know that guy. It's got, Bill Sousa's name on it, too.
Yep.
And a couple other people that I'm like, wow, I've actually played against these people. It was kind of one of those weird, surreal moments that I'm like, I know who these people are and what it's talking about,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was interesting last year because what they did was they had all the best overall players play against all the best overall players. However, there was an exhibition match that didn't really count towards points against the best generals. And so when you arrive to the event, which is really awesome, they fly you out, which is huge. I mean, you talk about prize support, they can hand you some plastic models or they can give you a flight. And they flew me out, and I'm not a small person. I'm 6'5", 375, and so I bumped up my ticket to be a little bit bigger seat. And when I went down there, they picked me up in a big old SUV. They drove me, picked up Starbucks, and then brought me to the hotel, which I was by myself. They didn't try to double book people in a room. Everyone had their own hotel room. So it almost felt like. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so unlike every other tournament that you go to, you didn't have four dudes sleeping in your beds, with you?
No. It was such an experience because, I'm married, I have 3 children, I share everything, and there's no peace and quiet. So literally, I'm in this room, I'm like, this was amazing.
Yeah.
And it felt like, it was almost like room service where I'd ring a bell and they would come pick me up and take me to the actual exhibit. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm bored. Let me ring my bell and they'll take me back to the hotel room or somewhere else. It was quite awesome. And then every day you would have an exhibition match against, somebody you haven't played against. And it was just a fun game, get to know somebody. And that was awesome. And then you played your real game at nighttime. And then, of course, you had dinner. They paid for everything. And then you do it again, exhibition match, and then your real game. And it was such an experience. I'm really looking forward to this year. They said they're going to really do it up in New Mexico, and just can't wait.
Yeah, we had James O'Brien on the show a little while ago once all the Warhammer events were announced. and he talked about how the New Mexico event's going to be really nice. He was showing pictures of the hotel there that it's going to be at. It looks super swank.
Yeah,
looks super nice.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I saw some other things where there's horseback riding and hot air balloons, and it's supposed to be a spa. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have a good time.
I don't think they've got masseuse tables big enough for you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I don't care. I'm like, you 3 people, let's go.
Yeah, so that's gonna be it. You need 3 of them just to handle you. Your legs will be dangling off the end. Yeah.
Don't care. It's gonna be a great time.
It sounds awesome, and congratulations for getting that golden ticket. That is a pretty big deal in terms of prize support. So, yeah, it's awesome. That's really cool. Cool.
No, I can't believe it. I'm super excited. It's just, we'll talk about it later. It's just a little bit of a bittersweet because I want my brother to go.
Yeah.
And, so it's just, I'm looking forward to it, and I just can't wait. And it's such an experience. But this year, they're doing it differently, like I was mentioning, where there's no longer a ticket for, the best overall player and the best general at NOVA or all the U.S. Open tournaments. They're just awarding one ticket to the person who didn't lose the game and scored the highest.
Right.
And so I think they're going to do things just slightly different, and I'm looking forward to it. Change is good.
Yeah. Well, you are the Lord of Change with
That's
your
true.
Tzeench army, so I would hope that you enjoy that change. And, today I want to definitely talk about Tzeench, where it is now, where you think it's going to go. We're obviously going to talk about the NOVA Open and your many, many games that you played. I think you played 12 games over 4 days. Is that right?
4 the first day, 4, 3, that's 10, and then another 2. Yeah, 12. What the hell?
Yeah, that's a lot. I played 5 games in 2 days, and I was spent, so I did half as much as you did, not even half. So I can't even imagine. But before we get into that, sir, what's on your hobby table right now?
I mean, to be honest, right now it's kind of my Etsy stuff. But in terms of models, I actually, some of you might have saw I built a 4th of July Gargant army. With all the the American flags and the British flag, and I actually have Kragnos where he's standing on top of Mount Rushmore with I cut off all his hair, and I actually put the judge's hair, all the white hair that kind of rolls up.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah, I actually laser engraved the Declaration of Independence in his shield, and I just have to do some more work to finish him up. And I'm also working on I'm doing a scene of the Boston Tea Party. So I'm doing the miniature Gargants or, the Man Crushers all dressed up like Indians. And, so I'm doing that right now. From there, I have my Flesh Eater Quartz army that I'm wrapping up with a bunch of ghouls. So that's something else I'm working on. Mm-hmm. And a project that's around the corner, actually, is Night Haunt. I bought all the models, and I'm going to do a Ghostbusters-themed Night Haunt army. I think I'm going to call them Life Busters. So instead of the Stay Puft Marshmallow with the cross going through it, it's going to be humans with the cross. And I have all these different lighting effects and, the whole white Ghostbusters cart. I even have the sound effects where you push the button, and I'm going to turn the black coach into, a white Ghostbusters themed cart on top of a nice display board. So I have 3 projects on my table, and of course, Tzeench is around the corner. And who knows what that's going to bring.
Well, your armies are very, very unique. Can people go somewhere to check them out? Like, if you do you have an Instagram account or anything like that?
It's tough for me. I don't do a lot of social media. I have a Facebook, but that's just to do Messenger. So if anybody ever wants to just talk or ask questions or how do I do this or feedback on anything, I mean, absolutely, just direct message me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm just so busy. I mean, again, wife, 3 kids.
You're a working man. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a store manager in retail. iPhones literally in 3 days. It's open to close. I mean, it's just a lot right now.
I get you. But at the same time, if you guys have not seen his 4th of July Gargant army, I know that some of our friends were playing them in the doubles tournament on Thursday at the NOVA Open, and a lot of people were commenting on them. And I think, wasn't Kaleb also playing the Easter Orcs.
Scooter, my brother.
Scooter. Oh, sorry, Scooter. I said
No.
Caleb, but I meant Scooter. Scooter was playing his Easter egg orcs, right?
Yeah, so my buddy, we had at Adepticon this year, we did a 4-person tournament, and we were all trying to figure out what to do, and nobody really builds except for me and the gaming group that I play in. And so I decided to do a holiday theme, and that's kind of what brought on the 4th of July Gargants, my Christmas Tzeench. I did also the dragons. I don't know if you guys saw them, the whole LED lights with all the flames coming through. With the glowing heads. They're a Halloween-themed Stormcast.
Oh, nice.
And then the Easter, my buddy Tim, he built these. He's never customized anything in his life.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, my friend Tim, he went at this like a monster. You know, he built little peeps in cardboard containers with cellophane.
Wow.
I mean, he went... He's never done it. Carrots. If you've seen his army, it's amazing. And we got lucky enough actually in the 4-person tournament to win not only best sports but best overall at the actual Adepticon with the team tournament. It was like a double prize. I've never got best sports and win. Normally it's one or the other.
Right.
But that was super exciting. But Tim crushed it with those Easter themed guys. So it was just amazing. If you have a chance to see them.
I loved the war chanters there banging carrots together.
Yeah.
And they had like Easter bunny ears on.
Yep.
They're so great. They're so great.
Yeah, no, so. It's just I'm really proud and really impressed. It was he did a great job.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, he kind of pulled it together pretty quickly, because I think Adepticon's in March, and you guys were talking about it in like December.
Yeah, I think we didn't even start working on it until like into January.
Yeah, like
and that's just kind of how we do it.
Pretty quick turnaround. It's pretty awesome, though. That's really great. That's really great.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, your stuff is amazing. In fact, I think at the Nova Open you had the 3D glasses that you had to put on to see your display board, right? Which was pretty. I was like, that's a pretty ballsy move, to make people put on the little 3D glasses, So
and for context to that, so of course the Christmas time you have the light show that I forgot what you call it, where you pull up with your vehicle and you're with the whole family, and I'm with my whole family. We're doing like a whole light show. My wife set up something in Annapolis, Maryland, and we drive up there, and the person gave us some glasses. I'm like, what the hell are these glasses for? And like, all right, whatever. So my wife passes them to my kids. They start screaming and roaring, and I'm like driving slow behind other people. And I'm like, finally get like 90% way through it. I'm like, let me see these glasses. Let me just, what's going on? I put them on. I'm like, yo, every single light is a snowflake.
Oh, wow.
Every light. And there had nothing but rows of lights. I'm like, this is so cool. And I had them in my car, and we're literally pulling up to Adepticon. And I didn't plan on nothing. And I go, I wonder if these will work with my LED lights. That'd be so cool if they do. And I literally just got out of the car with the team tournament. I just put them in my pocket, set everything up the display board, and I put them on. I'm like, yo.
That's hilarious.
And then I just made every single person I know put them on. And even the event organizer of Adepticon was like, can we please put your stuff on like Armies on Parade so even the 40K players can take a look at this. At that time, it was surreal. It was pretty cool, and it was just a happy coincidence. So then, of course, I go home and I'm like Googling all these different types of lights, glasses that make LED lights, and I saw like Santa Claus and snowmen and Christmas trees. So I'm like, what? Let me buy them all. $20. This is gonna be fun, and just had a good time.
Yeah, that was pretty. It was pretty epic. You're just like, what is happening here? So
it was a coincidence.
You and the crew definitely pushed the envelope in terms of creativity with the display boards and the armies, and I mean, a lot of really cool printed stuff that you do. Like for example, the 4th of July Gargants, the little Weber grill and the hot dogs on the table. Like it's just. Those are like the little touches that really sell it, and make it really awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's one of the things where I don't really want to change the models. Some people will like rip off a head and replace the head, and I think that's cool. But I really like the aesthetic of taking a model, whatever it is, and just adding to it versus subtracting. Now, when I say subtracting, I mean like the actual core part of it. I don't mind a weapon here, a bottle there, and it just so your opponent knows. And another reason I do it, this is kind of a nose tip, is all these models have different weapons. And so like my Skyfires, they have candy canes in their hands or, little bows. who says my candy canes aren't spears that I throw? So now they're Skyfires. Or who says these candy canes I'm holding aren't hand weapon, to be enlightened? And, so it gives you the opportunity to play your models in multiple different ways without being stuck to the whole WYSIWYG aspect of things.
Which, for the most part, I think AOS isn't as bad as 40K in that aspect.
Correct.
Like, for example, I was playing the Black Coach at Nova, and I had the whip, not the scythe, and nobody even questioned it when I said, it's got the scythe. And, like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, it was fine.
I do. We're just a better community.
I agree. Because it's like, oh, I'm sorry, those aren't the right grenades on his belt for you to be throwing. And you're like, oh, jeez, here we go. You know what I mean?
It's not worth the argument.
Yeah.
It's just not. And I don't know. I like it so much. Our community is we're just friendly. We're supportive. There's no animosity. There's nobody getting mad in games. I couldn't ask for a better community. Just to be honest.
Hey, guys. I know. We'll get back to the show in just a minute. But I wanted to be the first one to make a big, exciting announcement. Tabletop and Beyond now has our first official sponsor, the Baron of Dice. I know you've seen his stuff around, as all the best players use his perfectly crafted resin dice to make those perfect rolls. These aren't your dad's cheap acrylic dice, no. These 100% customizable dice have the look and feel that will make you a rock star at the gaming table. Customization not your thing? No problem. Baron of Dice has something for every need. Wargaming, skirmish games, RPGs, etc. You can have whatever you need. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.baronofdice.com and use promo code TABLETOPANDBEYOND to get a discount on every purchase. Now back to the show. Absolutely. So that kind of brings us to our next topic a little bit, which is the Nova Open, and we're going to spend some time on this one. But you played a lot of games. We talked about 12 games over 4 days. Dude, your head on Monday morning must have just been swimming. I don't know how you didn't collapse literally like Saturday night. I think when did we go out for dinner? Was that Friday or was that Saturday?
I don't even. So I don't even know when I think we went out. I got there
Saturday.
Hold on, no, I left my house Wednesday night, and just because I didn't want to deal with Thursday traffic, and luckily enough, I only live like 45 minutes away. Almost like 30 or 40 minutes away with no traffic. But with traffic, it's over an hour.
Right.
And so I didn't really want to have to deal with that. So I left Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday. It was Friday or Saturday when we went out.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's one of the two nights. And I don't know. I did feel a little bit fatigued.
What? It was Friday night because you and Scooter had just won your first round of the
GT.
Of the grand tournament. Yeah. And so like you were both saying like, oh, like, it'd be crazy if we ended up playing each other in the finals, which, sorry guys, spoiler alert. We're gonna get to that battle, the finals of the GT. But we were talking about it at dinner, how it'd be awesome if both of you made it there. So it was definitely Friday night. So
yeah, no, I just had a great, overall great time. But the fatigue part of it probably really hit me. I think I was more excited about I was probably fatigued on my fourth game at the Invitational, because you're playing against, some of the best players in America, and that fatigue really does set in because you're really not trying to make mistakes. You are trying to do well because it is an Invitational.
Yeah.
You want to play on the up and up. You don't want to make any mistakes, so you're overthinking every move. You're on a clock, and
right.
So everything's timed, and so that extra level of stress as well kicks in. And so I would say that my fourth game was, I guess, kind of a stressful. You're on the top of the line. That was rough. And then in terms of the GT, the last game of the second day was tough because that's kind of the mark of if you're going to get into the top 8 or not.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, oh man, I want this to be over because I'm just tired. And then you realize if you win, you have to play a whole nother game that same day. So you're like,
right.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the fatigue part.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty wild because your first day, dude, is 4 games. Like, I mean, even in most GTs, you're doing 3 games the first day, not even 4. And so to have that invitational on the Thursday before the grand tournament, where you're playing 4 games, right? There was 16 people, single elimination, right? So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about the invitational. So this was, I believe, the brainchild of Roger Barker. He thought it would be great to have 16 of the top players face off against each other in a single elimination, winner take all, 1-day tournament. So we had some pretty stellar people that were invited to that, and I believe that the criteria for an invitation was that you needed to go 5-0 in a grand tournament. I think that was the base criteria, right?
I wasn't 100% sure on what was the criteria. I know I did. What did I do? I don't think I did a 5-0. No, I had one 5-0 under my belt at that point, and a whole bunch of 4-1s. So I believe it was you have to have a 5-0 on one of the grand tournaments was the minimum to get in.
Yeah.
So it was all set up. I remember the year before I was invited, but at that point I don't know. I just wanted to play in the team tournament with my brother, and I didn't really I was like, invitational team tournament. Let me do team tournament. But this year, I was kind of already thinking about it since I didn't do it the year before, and it was exciting, and I was like, you know what, this is gonna be awesome. I get to play against some of the best, and since I've been going to tournaments more, I get to know some of the better players, more frequently, and really get to sit and talk. So I wanted to play.
Well, and play you did, my friend. Let's see. They've had there's some really good people in there. You were in there. Let's see. I saw Marcella Halou was in there.
Yep.
Gavin was in there. We had who else? Singh was there.
Yep.
Noah. I'm trying to think of some of the others.
Ridge was there. Michael was there.
Jeremy Vessier was there. Nate and
Anthony.
Nate and Anthony. I mean, you've got like rounding out top of the ITC players. You know what I mean? Like most of the top ITC players are playing in this tournament, and it was really great to see. I was running Warcry that same day, so I wasn't in there to really kind of see how it was going round by round. But when I did pop in every now and then, I'm like, "Ooh, these look like some pretty intense games."
Yeah, no, it was. I would say some of the players brought their best army they could possibly think of, like myself, and then there was other players who almost were not playing their best, just to be upfront, because they didn't want to do a whole bunch of fatigue like my silly butt did. So they were taking things that they either thought were good and they wanted to play, or something that they were just trying to prove that they could play and hopefully do very well in. So just to kind of give context to the invitational, not every player, I would be honest, was bringing their 100%. But that doesn't mean that they can't perform at an extremely high level with what they're bringing, their knowledge of the game, and their ability to make great decisions. And of course, this is still a game of luck. If I roll nothing but 6s, I'm doing pretty good.
That's right, except for Battle Shock, then you're doing pretty bad.
That's true.
But I think you're right. It like all the people there absolutely had a right to have a seat at the table, and they are some of the best in the community. Many of them are Team USA members, so they kind of know their business, and it was really interesting to see it. But I wonder if next year, because this is kind of the first year, in my opinion, this is the first year that the Invitational really got some notoriety. Like, it happened last year. Well, not last year. It happened in 2019. And it was kind of a, like, oh, this is sort of happening. And I think there was only 8 players invited to it, too. I don't even think that there was 16.
I'm not sure last year. I was so, or the last time we were at Nova.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was last year. I think we missed 2 years.
It was 2019, yeah. 2019.
In 2019,
I'm pretty sure it was only 8.
It might have been.
because that was a 3-round, 1-day thing that they did at the same time as doubles, right? And so I think it was 8 people. And whoever was in the Invitational back in 2019, feel free to correct me and point it out on Twitter how bad I made this mistake. But 16 people, that greatly expands your talent pool. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yes,
pulling top 16. Like, there's a lot of people that can really vie for that top position, and I think there was more kind of awareness around it too this year. Like, people were like, "Oh wow, the Invitational's happening. The Invitational's happening." I mean, I heard much more about the Invitational this year than I did the first time. So, I think maybe it was kind of I don't want to say it was in a weird spot, but maybe, people were like, okay, well, I'm going to be playing in this Invitational, but the GT is really important too. So I know, for example, Anthony Trentinelli brought Korn to the Invitational, and then he brought Tzeench to the Grand Tournament, and so I don't know if he thought that Korn list was very good, or if he just wanted to try it out, or you know what I mean? Like, he could have just been testing some things, and I wonder, because of the way that, the Invitational sort of had more awareness this year, I wonder if the next time people will maybe bring more competitive lists or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, from what I heard from talking to all of the players, I know that I didn't hear from Anthony, but I heard it from somebody else, said that Anthony won with that army, like a 5-0 tournament, or an RTT or something. He did very well with it, so he was just probably trying to take it, to the event. And I think a lot of it is, like, when I talked to Ridge, that wasn't even his Gargant army. It was funny when I played him round 2. He was asking me questions about the army as if I played the army. He was like, "How many attacks?" I'm like, "Dude, how would I know? I mean, I know I'm building
hilarious.
them." I'm like, "I don't know. Let's look it up." And so it was kind of comical. And he told me he just didn't want to, speak about Ridge for a second. Phenomenal player, plays Seraphon a majority of what I see, and it's a very technical army like Tzeench, and so there's a lot of fatigue memory wise, and just trying to play that army with such finesse that I think he wanted to just play something that's a little bit more, I guess we could say simplistic and straightforward. And so and that happened as well. But yeah, I believe Anthony played Korn because he won an RTT or a GT with it, and he did very well, and it's a very strong army.
Definitely. He's and kind of spoiler alert, not really, since he talked about this in the last episode that we had of Talkin' Warhammer. He is trying to get to the top of the leaderboards in several different Chaos factions. So he has it in Skaven right now. He has it in Slaanesh, and so he's kind of trying to get to the top of the ITC leaderboard in Khorne, and he's trying for Tzeench, but he's got a mountain to climb, my friend.
I'm going to keep... the problem with me, I don't get a chance to leave my house to play as much as I want. Like, I want to go to Everwinter. I want to go to Du Bois, but Du Bois falls on the same day as the U.S. Open in Nevada, or New Mexico. And I am going to LVO for the first time. Like, last year, I was on the top of the ITC right next to Gavin up until LVO happened. And apparently, I think they add like an extra score when you do LVO, which then shot me all the way down. And I'm like, well, hell, what if I went to LVO? Like, and I'm not sure if they're doing this year, but it'll be my first time there. And so it's when it comes to just being able to play more, it's tough for me. And I want to play more, and I want to do well. And Tzeench has been always my little baby.
Yeah, it is hard when you are a dad, my friend. There's 6 months out of the year, and you've seen this in our group text, right? Like the rugby is like dominates my life for 6 months out of the year, and there's no way I'm getting to tournament. So that's just how it goes. And so, yeah, I mean. Let's talk about each of your rounds in the Invitational. Who did you play first?
So I actually played a local friend of mine who happens to be a phenomenal player, Mike Vaginos.
Okay,
He's a awesome guy. He was playing his Nurgle list, and it's pretty much all flies. It literally, I believe, had like 16.
Oh my gosh!
Flies, and with the fly army, it's literally on you in one turn.
Yep.
And my army is a very finesse, type of army, And I have a front line that I don't really care about that's nice to have, but the rest of it's, all the meat and potatoes and the damage comes from what's behind. And so, of course, even if, so basically what happened was I made him go first, and he basically destroyed my front line, like expected.
Right.
And, from there, you can imagine I had just to speak about my army for a second, just kind of so there's some context to,
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
yeah, so I play, Tzeench, of course, and I've been kind of perfecting this list for a while now. And I think I updated it last year to this one, and I've just been practicing it with adding some stuff and removing some things. And the faction I play is Host Duplicitous from the Tzeench book, and what that gives me is you cannot flee from me. And if I summon a unit of horrors, and if that horror unit dies, I have a once per game I can roll a command point on a 5+, the unit comes back to life, wholly within 12 inches of me outside of 9 of my opponent. It's kind of a one-time use, but it's awesome when it works, and if it doesn't work, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And your general gets +1 to its armor save, so my Lord of Change is my general. So he's instead of a 4+ save naturally, goes to a 3+. Okay. And the big kicker is every Tzeench demon wizard wholly within 9 inches of my Lord of Change gets to reroll casting, dispelling, and unbinding. And the reason that's so important is every time there's an FAQ, they just keep changing the points, making things more expensive. So Blue Scribes went to 160 points. Wow. And I'm like, what the hell? And you also got to think about the Blue Scribe still has to roll a 2+ to cast a spell guaranteed, but that's still a 2+, and it's not guaranteed.
Yeah. Right.
And you still don't get to reroll dispelling or unbinding. And so I tweaked my list because I also didn't want to rely on cogs. And I realized once they updated the AOS 3 that spell casting is going to be really relevant. Cogs and endless spells are going to be very relevant. Mm-hmm. The new armies, the new hotness were the Ghost at the time, the Night Haunt, and their whole mechanic is fleeing. And so why don't I play an army, Host Duplicitous, where you cannot flee from any of my models or anything I summon, you can't flee from. And another army that came out that's really relevant is the tree army, Sylvaneth. Yeah. And their whole mechanic is, casting spells at a very high level, casting their endless spells that give you plus to movement, and charging, and literally, I forgot the name of it, where you
Strike and Fade, I think.
Strike and Fade. Yeah. And I wanted to build something that can stop all of the main metas right now. And with Strike and Fade, I have Karos dice to change any dice roll to what I want, and it can't be re-rolled or modified. So even if they had +5 to charge, it shouldn't work. And so now they're stuck in front of my 18-inch bubble of hate. And so my list is basically a Lord of Change general that can reroll cast a spell and bind with +1 save. Karos, so I have literally 2 big turkeys that are next to each other. They have 5 cast, 5 dispel, 5 unbind, and have a guaranteed 18-inch dispel an endless spell for free in the hero phase and not in the beginning of the hero phase.
Oh my gosh.
Then I have a machine gun caster called a Change Caster who can cast up to 6 spells as long as he rolls a 9+. And the Lord of Change gives you +1 to casting, dispelling, unbinding for a command point. So you're automatically starting with +1, everything around him. So now the little Change Caster machine gun guy only has to roll an 8+ rerollable. Still difficult, but can get done. And then I have 2 units of 10 Acolytes who are spellcasters who just get extra ren. And they're not good and they're not bad. And so they're at that middle point where your opponent looks at you and goes, I don't really want to fucking kill those models because they're not good, but they're not bad either.
Right.
And if they get too close to me, then they're just going to die from what's behind them. And then the new unit that I added is the Zangors. And the Zangors have a lot of attacks, but not a lot of ren. And what's relevant to that is there's agendas in Tzeench book that hopefully will stay, and we can talk about that, where no other army, I think, has this mechanic where there's like 5 different things that I can do. And I can say something like, hey, if my Change Caster rolls a 9+ twice, I get +1 to casting for the rest of the game. Or if my Zangors make a 9-inch charge, I get +1 to all my attack profiles. So now I go from 3 attacks space to 4 attacks. My beaks go from 1 attack to 2 attacks. And now that becomes a horde killing unit. With a GV profile where they can stack one behind the other with a very small footprint but a lot of attacks.
Right.
Then, of course, I have my endless spells. I have my Purple Sun for the extra rent, so now my Zangors are -2. My Acolytes are -2 shooting. My Lord of Change, who has his 2d6 shots, are -2. Also, the possibility of rolling a 1 and just, basically outright slaying things, and that's really relevant to my first game against Mike, where he had 16 flies, and I'm always doing 3 or 4 a turn, and that's over 50% chance to literally kill a fly, which is huge. And then you have the Gnashing Jaws, which is a 3d6 roll that if it moves over or stops within an inch of a unit on a 2+, you take the differential. So if your movement 4 and I rolled a 14, you just took 10 mortal wounds on a 2+. But you find myself in games using these endless spells as actually, and I could talk about this for tactics-wise, as more of a damage dealing, but also a way of stopping people from attacking me. And just
a movement blocker, right?
Exactly, and just exactly every single table, and we can talk about this about Nova, was terrained with where there's almost like 2 impassable pieces on every table in the middle. Yeah. And I'm like, well, okay. And then of course I also had the spell portal for my guaranteed Kairos 6 mortal wound, create a spawn spell. Yeah. And so I found myself, and here's another thing with the terrain, if you're the attacker, the defender gets to place the terrain, and the attacker gets to place, gets to pick the side. So I would roll my 8 terrain dice, and I would say, oh, I have 2 arcanes. Well, I look at your army, you don't have any casters, so I'm like, you get an arcane, and I get an arcane. Which side would you like to pick?
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, I get arcane. So now my change caster, who's getting +1 from Lord, is also getting +1 from the arcane, so now he only needs to do a rerollable 7.
Yeah.
And then of course I pick the agenda that says if I roll twice 9, I get +1 to casting, so now I'm +3. So now I only need to do a rerollable 6. And if you don't know, that's pretty easy to do with re-rolling and just needing a 6 and telling your opponent, hey, the spell goes off on 11. You want to stop it?
Right.
It's a little different. And then of course he's casting 6 spells, everything else, and then every turn I'm summoning 10 blues or saving up a round to get 10 pinks or extra characters or whatnot. So it's a very effective small army. And so when I played Mike, talk about that.
So sorry, just before we get into talking about Mike, you talked about blocking movement with your endless spells because of those huge bases that they have. And again, the Nova terrain was pretty favorable in that, like, it created some kill lanes, right, that you could kind of funnel armies through and stuff like that.
I had the Incarnate. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Okay, that's right. You also had the Incarnate.
And bounded to my Lord, so he was +2 to cast naturally.
Oh, jeez Louise. Okay. And he's probably not going to die anytime soon, so that thing, risking of going wild is pretty low.
Very low, because you could do all-out defense and go to a 2-up armor save, or best day ever, go up to a 1-up. Or a hidden agenda where I kill a monster and I get +1 on my armor save for the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So, before we talk about Mike, you kind of went through your army. Like, it sounds like you, like other armies, kind of come up into the mid-board and try to challenge you there because you said you have that 18-inch bubble of death, basically, that happens, right? So what kind of armies do you fear?
So I fear heavy shooting armies. I don't mean like a unit of 30 sentinels. I don't really fear that.
Okay.
I don't really fear people that have like a unit of 6 of those. I believe they're the Stormcast, like long strikes. I don't know all the names very well, even though they can shoot twice and things like that. Well, actually, they can't because they can't be reinforced. But I fear an all shooting army. So I fear KO. Is like the only army I truly fear, and that kind of brings back like why I built my list the way I did was. In this meta, how many all-shooting armies are really out there that are doing well?
Right.
The armies that I see are doing well right now happen to be, beyond Tzeench. I don't see a lot of people taking them at this moment. I see the, Night Hunt. I see Sylvaneth. I still see, the Gargants. I see sometimes Stormcast with dragons. I'll occasionally see. I see a lot of Lizardmen. And that's almost like a mirror match for me at that point.
Okay.
So I don't see a lot.
Grave Lords.
Soul Blight. So really, the only armies that kind of shoot heavily out of the ones that kind of mention, Seraphon is probably one of the bigger shootier ones that are pretty fearful, and their Bastildons get the extra damage against me. So they're pretty scary, and of course the Skinks.
And those Bastildons are impossible to kill. Unless you do a bunch of mortals first.
Yeah.
Right? So that's you're fortunate that a lot of your spell casting does like a good set of mortals.
Correct.
Right? So you would be targeting those Bastillodons first, so that even if they did kind of come into your area, that you had a lower save for them because they had taken some damage, right?
Exactly.
If they weren't dead already.
It really just kind of see. It's whenever you talk about Warhammer, and this is the perception you give people when you speak about it. I'll say something, online with you, or I'll say something with AOS Coach, or I'll say something in person, and I'll say this is what you should do, and it's not really true.
Right.
What truth is, when you have to really look at the state of the game and the board you're looking at, depending how far, like let's say Seraphon, how far their Slan is from you. You know, how far is their Stegodon from you? Can you get to somebody with your Incarnate on turn 1, and what's the impact of doing that? Was somebody silly enough to keep their Bastiladon within, let's say, 22 inches of your Incarnate, and they're not thinking about the fact that I can use Karos' dice to change my charge roll to a 6 and still stay outside of 9 inches from him so he can't redeploy, and cast a spell to literally do 6 mortal wounds, make his armor save a 4+, then use the spell portal not only to cast at 6 mortal wounds, but also to reposition the Purple Sun, so all my attacks are at -3 or -4 rend, and then now I go up a level guaranteed on turn 1.
Right.
Like, things like that, it's really dependent on the board state, and what your opponent is deploying will completely change everything I do. And so it's kind of hard for me to give you a blanket statement of this is what you should do.
Oh, totally. And it's funny because I think my listeners are pretty savvy. They kind of like hearing what you were doing because it kind of informs the meta. So this is kind of the big Tzeench list, the big bad Tzeench list that's out there right now. And but I think your point is very astute in that there's the meta and then there's the micro meta, which is like what's happening at the tournament, like what list did people bring and how are they using them? Because like you may say, oh, I'm going to set up an army that counters Soulblight Gravelords. Well, it's kind of become sort of a starter army for a lot of people, and not a lot of people are playing Soulblight Gravelords very well because they just aren't very optimized. So do you need to, should you tailor your list to that? Probably not. There's other bigger bads out there, So, like, I would not want to run into the buzzsaw of Marcella Hallou's Daughters of Cain. You know what I mean? Like,
very good.
I'd rather prepare for that than like a Soulblight game. So, but anyway, I think that's a good point. So sorry, I kind of sidetracked us a little bit in talking about like what kind of armies you fear, and I think that's very, very interesting. Again, you have a lot of tools in your belt with this army. Obviously, it's very magic heavy.
Yes.
Do you worry about something like a tech list or something like that can counter some of your spells?
No, not really.
Or Slan, I guess, right? Slan
not even the Slan. I face it too much, So, give an example, like with a Slan, I have 13 spells. Slans have 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they have Priest, and I don't have Priest. Right? So I can't stop their Priest. Their spells, their average roll is 7. Right? That's the average roll for a Slan. And so he'll get +3, it goes to a 10. Well, my casters, all I need to roll is a 5 with 4 dice, and that's average.
Yeah.
And I stop every spell he has.
Interesting.
And if I roll a 5, well, that's a 12. And so he has to roll above average to stop me.
Yeah.
So the odds are in my favor, with just my spell casting alone, not to mention my dispelling. And against the Slan, there's another thing I didn't mention. Lord of Change has an ability where if I roll a 9+, I learn your spell. And that's what happened in one of my games, actually a lot of my games, where a Slan will cast, its spell, and I basically dispel it. He rolled like a 10 or 11, and I'm like, I rolled a 12, or I guarantee I roll a 12 with my cheating dice, my fate dice, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then now I have their unlimited range spell, along with my other damaging spells.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And so I pick D6 of their targets, and all their wounds are low. They're all skinks. 4 wounds, Slan, they're helpers, they're Bastiladons, they're, and I start weakening them. And when you weaken 6 units, they can only heal 1 or 2, a turn. And so it becomes very tough. But magic-wise, Techless, no, not so much, because Techless, I could stop his 4 10 spells very easily, so he's only casting 1 spell if he really wants to get his 5-up ward save bubble. He can stop a couple of my spells, and 1 guaranteed, but when you have 2 big turkeys, what are you going to stop? The Lord of Change rolled 9 dice on 3s, which is average of 6 mortal wounds, up to 9. Or are you going to stop Karos' spell, which is a flat 6 mortal wounds, create a spawn? Most likely Karos. But again, you can only stop 1 of those spells. And I still have 2 additional D6 mortals as well.
Yep. Very good. All right, so Getting back to your the first round of the Invitational, you played against Mike Vaginos. You said he's a local guy. Rumor is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is he opening up a game store?
I don't know.
Okay.
You know, I don't get out much. I've been to his house a couple times. We go to, a local store, Palladium Games, a lot of times to play some RTTs up in PA. You know, I don't know if he's planning on opening up a gaming store. I mean, he has the personality.
Yeah, he totally does. It might have been either he's planning to open a game store or he's planning to, work on a space to host a tournament. I know he's definitely hosting a tournament coming up, but I didn't know if it was connected to a game space that he was opening as well.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I will say that he did a great job being a TO in the GT. He was very into the game, so was doing a lot of reporting. I was actually quite impressed about how much the TOs were actually in the games. They're like, "Hey, this person's doing this and this person's doing this. Oh my god!" Like he threw his papers up. He's like, "Did you see what Noah just did?" Yeah. Like it's really exciting to see all the TOs not only being great judges and making sure everything runs smoothly, but also really caring about what's happening. It almost felt like those announcers when a goalie scores a goal. Goal! Like, it's almost like they're just as excited as you are. And,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was cool.
And as a player, out in the general population, I didn't ever get to play up near the screens or anything like that like you did. But as a player out in the kind of general population, they did a good job of just being available.
Yeah.
So, if something came up, I never had anything with my games come up, but there was a couple of people around me that, had to call for a TO. They were there really quickly. They weren't just kind of hiding behind a desk waiting for something to happen. They were walking around. They'd come say hi because, they were all of our friends too, right? There's Andrew Simmons, there's Mike Vaginos, there's Charles was a TO for the doubles game. These are all people that we know and we play with. And so, having them come around and be like, "Hey, how you doing? Okay, cool. Good job. Keep going." And having them available in case something needed. They did a great job with it across the board.
No, absolutely. I think they did an amazing job.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. So Mike was not TOing this. He was playing the first round against you.
Yes.
He was running what army again?
It was Nurgle. So his army
that's right, with the
was
flies.
literally the Drowned Men army, the free 8-inch move. He had he had 2 Lords of Affliction. He had a multiple 2-man squads. I believe he had 5 2-man squad and a 4-man squad.
Ooh.
And it was just a monster, straight hell to deal with. The only real saving grace I have, against that type of army, of course, is my spells. I'm going to roll a lot of mortals. I believe I roll, I can't do the exact number, 6, average, another 6. It's upwards between 20 plus mortal wounds a turn, but he still has 5 up saves.
Yeah.
And so he's going to be in my death threat, and of course I do have an Incarnate, which can do quite a bit of damage as well. But to speak about the game, he went first, and he put me in a position where he put me on my back heels, like you expect, pushed me in a corner, and that's kind of what Nurgle does, is pushes you in a corner and scores, a few rounds while you're having a hard time scoring.
Right.
In the game itself, I was rolling really, really bad in the beginning, and the only saving grace I did is because I was rolling so bad, is my purple sun was killing. Right? And so it's like you want to roll bad with the purple. I literally rolled 5 1s in that game.
Gosh. Oh my
5
gosh.
1s against him.
And those are 7 wound each, right? Those flies?
8 wounds each.
Oh
yep.
My gosh.
And but at the same time, I would kill a fly with a 1, and then on his turn, he would rally and roll a 6.
Oh my gosh.
And that happened for the first 2 turns where he rallied 5 models, and I killed 5 models.
Oh my gosh.
The only difference was I rolled a 1 on his general, the Lord of Affliction, that had the whole, you can't use command ability, so he couldn't rally that 1 model.
Yeah.
But we were laughing about it, shit you not, where it got to a point where it's like, what am I doing? I roll a 1, you roll a 6. I roll a 1, you roll a 6. Let's put our dice in water. Let's see what happens.
Right.
And we were just joking. And it got to a point where he put me in such a rough position with this one round And of course, he's talking trash. He's having a great time, and
Yeah.
more power to him. And he's like, "Kaleb, I got you. You got nothing." And I'm like listening to him, but I'm such a thinker where I'm like, all right, if I do this, if I move this, if I run here and I summon here, can I do this? I'm just constantly thinking about different position. I got to a point where I needed to make a really good charge or use Karos's ability to make the charge to do damage to one of his units just to get it off its platform, and everything kind of worked. It aligned for me where I was able to roll the 10-inch charge, so I didn't have to use Karos's ability. Had my Lord of Change do his attack and do enough damage to the Nurglings along with my Stomp to kill the unit. He didn't roll too well with the save. Took the objective, and then at that one turn, after I did that, we did the roll off, and I think it was turn 3 at that point. Because the first 2 turns were literally me rolling 1s and him rolling 6s.
Yeah.
At that point, I opened up with my spells, and I damn near did 30 mortal wounds.
Oh my gosh.
And I picked up like 4 flies. My Incarnate went over and finished off the 4-man squad. So I was like, all right, those 4 flies over there are dead. Your 4-man unit's dead. I rolled a 1 on your Lord. He's dead. I got the Lord of Change. He's dead. And it was that one round where it was just such a swing of rolling monster, mortal wounds and good hits with my Incarnate.
Yeah.
And Mike not rolling super hot with his saves at that point. It was just an unlucky round, but he was literally at the cusp of knocking me out, putting me in that position on that back foot up until that huge 10-inch charge.
Yeah. Wow. It is amazing how many times games that we play rest on a single dice roll. Like, you can point to a moment where you're like, if I didn't get that one dice roll, this would be a very different game. And you try to do everything you can to mitigate those moments, right? Like, you don't want to leave your game on a dice roll, even though sometimes that's like an epic story that you have, right? But epic if it works out, and sometimes epic if it doesn't, right? Like, it's an epic failure if it doesn't. But so you always try to kind of mitigate that by positioning yourself well, or making sure you got your bonuses to charge or something like that. But sometimes you just got to do it. Sometimes you just got to be like, all right, screw it, let's roll it. Let's see what we got.
Let's get this 10-inch charge.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to, when I watch Tzeench players play, not using their Karos dice too quickly or too late.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to find that perfect time to use it to have the most impact in a game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's something else. But it was great. Mike, I even mentioned to him, I was like, Mike, you almost had me wanting to quit that game. He goes, I know, I was trying. I was laughing. I was like, good at you. Good job, buddy.
Very good.
But no, that was my first game.
Okay, cool. All right, so who was down in the round of 8 that you had, the Elite 8?
Yeah, well, this is still the Invitational, so.
Yep.
Drink some water.
No worries.
Next one was more of a Ridge, Hannah.
Yep.
This is my Gargant game, and of course, so now I know I'm not playing against his best, so I already know that. We played in Du Bois last year, and he actually at that time was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. He beat me with his Seraphon. And I went 4-1, and this has kind of been just to kind of go on a tangent, which I'll tell the community. It is so awesome that knowing you can still win best overall going 4-1 if you have a really cool-looking army and your scores are still kind of high. And I'll tell people to spend more time on converting and coming up with cool things, because even though I've lost at Du Bois, I still won best overall.
Yeah.
And just the prize support, everything. And at Summer Slaughter, same thing happened again. I lost the game against Beastman, and I was, I didn't know what Beastman did, and I didn't really research. Because it's Beastman, whatever, I'm fine,
Yeah, right.
And I lost the game, and I'm like kicking myself in the butt, and I still won best overall.
Yeah.
It's like almost like you get lucky, into it, but. Definitely convert, definitely build. It was awesome. But against Ridge, it was my payback time. But I kind of, it's Gargants.
Yeah.
And so it's I made him go first. like you do. I'm a 2-drop list, so with this meta where if everyone's taking, the killing GV stuff or counting as 3, which again I have nothing but mortal wounds, I don't really need, and so I want to go low drops to have the option. So I make him go first, and of course he moves up to charge my stuff, and he has 2 Gargants about to go in and commit suicide at this point. But I can't pick up 2 Gargants with all my spells and all my combat. I can only pick up 1. And so I position in such a way where he could possibly get up to 2 to come in, but I know I can stop 1 with Kairos. And so, of course, I'm going to stop the big, heavy combat one. I think it's like a War Stomper or, the big one with the big
Gate
swing.
Crasher?
Yeah, doing like 3 damage, a swing, 10 attacks. It's kind of crazy. And so he came in, and of course I used Kairos on him. I let the other one come in. I positioned my Lord of Change to be near him, so when he went into Roar, it's fine. I'm already a 3+ save, and I have all my cheating dice to save all the attacks. And when you attack a Tzeench hero, you're -1 to hit. Yeah. And so I rolled you. You roar me. You're hitting on 3s. Now it's going to be 4s. You're going to miss half your attacks, and then the half you hit and wound, I can save with my cheating dice. And so he kind of, I guess we could call fell for the trap, because it's kind of is a trap in that sense of allowing you to hit something for nothing. And so he did that, and then I attacked back and did like 7 wounds, and then in my turn I just released the spells and damn near killed him outright with spells. And then I left him on like 1 or 2 wounds so I can flee everything, and then charge him with the Incarnate to make him a level 3. And just kind of positioning him that way. And then we do the roll off, and I got lucky enough to win. And so then the other big guy that was sitting there just unleashed the spells again, Incarnate go up, and dead again. And so it's just kind of, it's not a fair match. And at that point, the game was pretty much sealed. I'm summoning things, tying up, and that's another thing with like when you summon blue horrors, you summon them outside of 12. I can guarantee charge them in. I make sure my Kairos or Lord or my change casters wholly within 12, so you're -1 to hit. And it just with Tzeench, the way the book is written right now, there's a lot of guarantees, and and it's not really like you're playing Warhammer. It's like I know what's going to happen. I know the future. I know how this game's going to turn out.
Which is very thematic, but
it is.
It can be a real pain if you're on the other side of the table.
Oh, 100%. And it's one of the reasons I like the army specifically is I'm not a man of chance. I like to play chess and understand what's going to happen and what you can do and what I can do back to you. I don't like a lot of luck. I'm not like my brother.
Yeah.
And so, but that was. I mean, there's not much more I can really say about it. I mean, it's literally Gargant's going to smashing, and I was able to kill 2 before he had a real turn to swing.
Yeah, very good, very good. And that's a real good matchup for you if you can kind of make sure that you don't get overwhelmed, right? So no, absolutely. It's guarantees. He literally, I think he had some mini man crushers, but they don't do a ton of damage. They throw some rocks, and things like that. They sit on objectives, and that's good as well. And here's another thing: is Gaze of Gur. I'm looking for some more rollings, but it literally halves your count in terms of how many models are contesting an objective. And that can really affect Gargants as well. Yeah, definitely.
Just more and more spells.
Okay, so then you kind of work through that one, and you make it to the final 4. Who do you face off here against?
This is against Noah.
Oh boy. Okay.
So I mentioned this earlier, so Noah's playing Beastman.
Yep.
Well, you damn know Kaleb doesn't fall for the same mistake twice. He's playing something very similar that Joe Cryer was when he beat me at Summer Slaughter. And so I'm talking to Noah, great freaking guy, by the way. Awesome. Yeah. Everyone I've played is awesome. Very great player. But I am literally like studied at this point. I know what his stuff does. So I'm like, he has a Shaggoth, if you don't know, that literally says, "Hey, I'm within 12 inches, and now you cannot cast spells." And so like Kairos or Lord of Change is just like standing there, with their 2d6 mortals or whatever, and just not doing anything.
Yeah.
So of course I position myself, and I ask Noah which one it is, and he knows why I'm asking. He points at him. I go, "Okay, that's really great. Thank you very much." And where are all your other characters, and just kind of figuring out where they're all at. And his army is a very big summoning army, just like mine. He does he gets these primal points, one for free at the start of every command trait. He can do D3 mortals to himself or to a unit near him near the herdstone or near his guy, and get up to 3 more there. He has command points that he can spend to get more primal points. And then, of course, during a monster, if you have a monster, when they do his monster reaction, depending on what he rolls, he can get multiple primal points too. And you almost need none to summon anything. And so it's like,
right.
you need 4 to get like a cockatrice. You need 10 to get something good, and you're getting so much. So I knew this match I had to do a couple things specifically to put myself in a position to do well. And I also didn't make the mistake that I made against Joe Cryer, leaving my Incarnate within range of his Enlighten, so he can like put like 1 or 2 guys, because Enlighten, when if they swing second, get to reroll all their hits and all their wounds, and with the extra Ren from the Herdstone, they put forth some hate, even 2 of them. They can really drop an Incarnate if you misplace. So I was really tight on my deployment. I was really tight in terms of my measurements, just making sure I don't make the same mistake again. And I made him go first. He moved up. He did his thing. He put his things in position. I believe he summoned, I think, some Gores or something of that nature. And didn't really get too much in combat. He didn't really want to get within that 18-inch bubble of me just blowing a unit off the table. So he was a little bit more, reserved, because, he knew I was going next. And then there was a roll-off for possibly going again. And but at that point, I kind of knew what his thing did. So I saw his what's the main herd guy? The little miniature model is 100 points. He gives plus 3 inches to your move on Beastmen. The Great Bray Shaman, and he was the one next to the Herdstone, and he made a mistake by leaving things away from his Herdstone to do D3 mortals.
Oh.
And so I literally said, all right, Karos, you're outside of my range, create a portal, 6 mortal wounds, create a spawn. And I picked him up right away, and he loses his spell, he loses a lot of his summoning, his mortals, and when he loses a model, I believe on a 2+, he becomes a spawn that can do command abilities, which is awesome. But that happened. At the same time, I released Gnashing Jaws and Purple Sun up the table.
Yeah.
And in the hero phase, I dispel my my spell portal, and of course, I move up some shooters, and I believe I summon a unit of 10 blues on an objective, and slowly start trying to whittle down his. He summoned 10 guys on the objective. I slowly try to whittle them down to take the objective from him, and that was kind of like the turn one. So I didn't really do too much. I killed a character, summoned some stuff, casted some good spells, got a lot of points, killed a couple Gores, but that doesn't really get rid of his meat and potatoes. And he had a Khorne Demon Prince, a unit of 6 Enlighten, a unit of 6 of the big bulls that have a bunch of attacks. He had a unit of like 20 or 30 Zangors, and that's a massive unit as well.
I played against its almost exact list my 3rd round. And Night Hunt did pretty good with them. It was a super close game. I think I lost 21-19.
Oh, that's very close.
Very close game. Night Hunt did pretty good against them, but the issue that I had was that stupid Khorne Demon Prince. Because he was having my charges, and then one of the Bray Shaman got the spell off that did half to movement and charges. So I had half of a half on my charges. So I needed boxcars to get 3 inches, which I was 3 inches outside of one of his major units, and I just could not get my ghosts in there. You know what I mean? So
I completely understand.
It's tough, but it was a very solid game. It was the first game I think I've ever played where the 2 armies met in the middle and they didn't budge. Literally, the game ended with our 2 armies pretty much right in the middle.
And that's a fun game, though. Both people are just swinging back and forth. It's murder. You're healing. You're not healing. You're summoning. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So I know that thing. The funny thing about it, though, is because I was playing Night Hunt, none of the rend of the thing scared me, right? But that's a big difference for you. That rend makes a big difference to you.
Yeah.
So.
One swing against the Lord of Change with a +2 rend or +1 rend. Yeah, I'm bonkers gone. But that was my turn one. I also positioned my turkeys to be within 18 inches of his Shaggoth, who stops my spells. And so when I won the roll-off, I took the churn. And this is kind of a thing with Tzeench where I always start in the negative, because I couldn't take the points from him. I'm only scoring first turn he gets 4 because there's only one active objective on the table, so he only got one, hold more, and then his battle tactic, he got 4. Well, I only got my battle tactic, so I hold 2. And the next round, since I won the roll-off, he made his objective that he's standing on active, and so now I can't take that either, but I could take the middle one. So it's hold 1 and a battle tactic for 3 points, right? So in the beginning with Tzeench, you're always playing in the negative, and this tournament at Nova is differential.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
but at this point, Invitational was
win-loss.
win-loss. Yeah, but I mean, that's an issue you'll hear me talk about, or I guess game when we talk about the GT.
Yeah.
But back to the Invitational. So then when I won the roll-off, he had his general, which was a Zangor Shaman, which I know those models very well. Pretty good spellcasting, very fast, and gets extra +1 to hit for his Enlighten. So by taking that out, I really do hurt quite a bit, and his general, so he doesn't get command points. But at the same time, like I said, I repositioned my turkeys to get within 18 inches of his Shaggoth. So at that point, I'm like, all right, we're unleashing the hell. Boom, 2 spells, Shaggoth's gone. So now he only has 2 characters. He has his Khorne ally Demon Prince, and he has his general. Karos is 6 mortal wounds. Zangor Shaman's off the table. So now I've killed 3 of his characters. And with Beastmen, when you get rid of all their monsters, there's no more monster reaction to get more primal points.
Yep.
Right? There's no more sacrificing to get primal points. And you're only going to get 1 a turn.
Yeah.
At this point, unless you spend command points. And your command points are so valuable because you have no general.
Right.
And so at this point, I'm just going in. I'm summoning more blues. I'm bringing in my Incarnate. I'm bringing in, all my shooters. My purple, I believe, rolled a 1 on like a small, insignificant model. My Gnashing Jaws is rolling 3d6, rolling like a 12, and rolling a 2+ and killing 10 gores. It's still not doing enough to where I feel confident that I'm good, because he still has 6 Enlighten, and we know they're crazy strong. He still has the 6 Bulls. He still has the 30 Zangors. But I'm not going to make the same mistake and not deal with stuff. So I'm moving everything in a position to tie him up. To where I put like 10 blues on the corner of his unit where he can't flee, and only he gets 6 guys to hit me back at -1 to hit. Doing that a couple different positions, and also putting my Incarnate in a position where it's going to do a good amount of damage. And if I drop a level, that's fine. I'm going to keep him there for 2 turns until I can cast more spells and reposition my spellcasting to do so. Yeah. And so, in a nutshell, that was kind of how the game played out, where, he almost got me, but I think he made kind of a bad decision by bringing his Enlighten in the front of my unit versus doing what he was originally planning on doing and bringing it in the back where all of my weak stuff was.
Right.
He was trying to put a hole in my army, but it wouldn't matter. Even if he killed every single thing he touched, I still had my threats of my Double Turkey, my Changecaster, and my Incarnate. It didn't matter that he put a hole into all my summoned or my GVs at that point of the game. But needless to say, that's kind of how it finished after he made that mistake. I was able to just blow up the unit, because Enlighten our paper, they hit like a hammer, but they fall down pretty easily with a 5-up save and 4 wounds each.
Right.
But that was my game against Noah.
Nice. And so that propelled you to the finals of the Invitational.
Tired at this point, by the way.
Yes,
I'm tired.
Exactly. You got 3 full games in against elite players, and so now you face off against Jeremy Vessier, who I believe was playing Fire Slayers at that point.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point of the game, I am tired, but I was also I knew I was playing Jeremy, but the rounds were like, all right, Kaleb, you finished the round, you have 10 minutes, you're gonna play Jeremy, and I'm like, all right, well, what does Jeremy have? Jeremy's a great player. I've known of him. I've never played him.
Yeah.
And it's it's on stream, so there's always that kind of fun part of it, and the clock is in play, and so as we go up this table, we're kind of just setting up the table, the terrain, getting all that going, and the clock has already started, and I'm like, okay, crap, well, what the hell does this stuff do? Right. He has 11 characters, and he has like tokens on each character. I'm like trying to look and read, and I see something that says like +1 damage, +1 to hit, +1 move, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's confusing. Hey, Jeremy, what does this stuff do? And he's like, well, let me tell you. And he puts the time in my time because I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, my time's going lower. I'm like,
right.
And he's like, well, this character has this, and he could do this. I'm like, all right, that's cool. well, what's the next character? Well, this character is this. I'm like, that's cool. Okay, I can't do this 11 times. Where is the guy that stops my spells? And he points to a guy with a staff. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm like, that's a staff guy. But they all look the fucking same. Excuse my language.
I
and
mean,
I'm
I
like,
think
all right.
he had like 11 of the same model, right? Like the Doom.
Yeah, and I'd never
guy.
played against the army, not once, with the new book. I played against Mike Vaginos' Fire Slayers, where he had like units of like Volkite Berserkers, and they're really good, but it was like units of them and like 1 or 2 characters. It was very like kind of consistent with what I'm used to. This one was a very mix, so I didn't really know what things did. And so it was a little frustrating. I kind of was like, screw it, let's go, because I already spent like 10 or 15 minutes of my hour and 15 minutes to play the game. I got like an hour left to actually play. And I kind of just don't know what things completely do. I don't know what has an aftersave. I don't know any of the rules. And I'm just like, let's just roll dice, Caleb. All right, take 6 mortal wounds. And I'm like, do you have an aftersave? And he's like, a 6-up. I'm like, cool. Did I kill him? I don't even know how many wounds he has.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those situations where I didn't know. And he's moving his stuff up. And the big deciding point for me in the game, I think it's on stream. You can actually hear my confusion and, I guess, frustration. I pointed to his character, and I thought, there was a big building in the way, and his 4-up ward save or 4-up negate spell guys was behind the building. And so when I pointed directly above the model, but towards another guy with a staff on the back lines, I said, "Is that your guy?" He said, "Yes." He thought I was talking about the guy behind the building that I didn't see. So when I cast a spell on a unit, and he rolled his 4+, I got really confused. I said, no, your guy's back there. He said, no, it's behind the building. I'm like, oh, fuck, I wouldn't have picked that battle tactic if I knew, because I don't take chances. I don't take a 4+ chance on 4 spells. You just got to roll 4 4s. That's very possible. And then I don't do any damage. I would have picked, ATO or Desecrate the Lands or something that's very easy. So at that point, it was too late to take it back. And then after I did finally get through his 4-up, he had bodyguards. And I'm like, well, fuck, I didn't know you had bodyguards, too. And that's my fault, right? I don't know the rules. I don't know what his stuff did. I didn't have the time to really ask. The clock is going down. And so at that point, it was one of those situations where now I'm playing behind. GoTrek is moving up and doing what GoTrek does. I'm trying to do a clock of take out everything on the left side and start moving the right, but I'm not moving quickly enough. And the time is going down, and the game ended, and I lost. I lost that match due to points and not picking the right battle tactics and not knowing what to kill. And I wasn't even thinking about GoTrek and casting Purple Sun just because I'm not thinking. The clock is going down. It's one of those things where if you give me time and I know what your stuff does, just put Purple Sun next to GoTrek. I know he's not going to die, but then I can just summon Pinks and just sheer weight of firepower. I'm like, all right, take 35 saves, -3 or -2, and then have him roll a whole bunch of 3+ and see how many 2s and 1s he rolls for 2 turns in a row.
Yep.
And so just not fully understanding everything is what I believe costed me that game. But again, no ill will. Jeremy's a phenomenal player. I just didn't know that his guy was behind the building.
Yeah.
I thought it was another guy. He had like another guy with like a staff and some fire. I didn't even know what that model was. But again, lesson learned. Study books.
I think too, like if I'm not mistaken, like it was kind of a new army for him. He was just kind of like, this is one of those armies that we were talking about, right? Where he just kind of took it for fun. It was different than his normal army, and he wanted to see kind of what it could do. Obviously, he did very well with it. But it makes me wonder if like he was like fully up on what everybody could do, because like when you know what your army does, you can give the elevator speech and ask the other opponent, like, do you need more, or is that good enough? You know what I mean? Because like I played against enough people who knew Night Haunt that they're like, just give me the super fast rundown. And so I'm like, I got these many Harridans, they negate your ward save. I got that guy that does that guy that does that guy that does that, and I'm done. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, okay, cool, I got it. But if you don't know your army like that well, it's hard to sometimes be able to do the elevator speech, especially with that many freaking heroes that have got a whole bunch of different stuff. You know what I mean? Like that makes it tough.
Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely. No,
yeah.
I understand it. You know, at the end of the day, it is my fault. You know, I should research everyone's army and what it does.
That's so
And
tough to do, though.
It
you
is
know?
tough. I have a good memory, but it's tough.
Yeah,
but it's still.
like, even you got to buy the book or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm with
it's
it.
tough. So.
It wouldn't have been a problem if there's no clock. You know,
Yeah.
because then I don't have the stress
Right.
of like, oh shit, he still has an hour and 20 minutes to play, and I have an hour.
Right.
You know, and let's go. You know,
Yeah.
and seeing that clock go down and not really fully understand like what's your family do, how do lodges work. So your grand strategy is keep your little endless spell alive, and if I kill your character, it comes back to life for free, and if you just don't move, it stays alive, and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, enjoy the 3 points. Can I play a book that does that?
Right.
You know, and that's actually another thing about the whole community right now. A lot of tournaments are allowing everyone to have their own book rules,
Right.
and some are a lot easier than others. And Tzeench is literally just playing the book.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's a fun one right now. But again, a new Tzeench book's around the corner, so you know we'll see. Maybe they're gonna have something that says Kaleb casts 2 spells and you get a grand strategy. And I'm gonna be like, you know what, guys, we should keep the book ones. These are really good.
Exactly. I know that I leaned on some of the Night Haunt ones when I was struggling to like come up with one that like I didn't have to kill because like most of them were dead already, or you know, I'm like, oh, here's this black coach one that I'll just use. And,
Yeah.
You know, it was helpful. It was helpful.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. All right, so 4 games in, you're probably pretty tired. You probably want to go crash in bed. I know I played 3 games on Friday night. I came home and fell asleep on the couch. You know what I mean? And that was only 3 games. So you wake up bright and early, first day of the Nova GT. Who are your opponents on this day?
No, we need to back up.
Oh, yeah, let me back up.
We need to back
Okay.
up because I'm going to tell you right now, the restaurant they had in the Renaissance, they had this steak.
Oh, yeah.
It was delicious.
Oh, that restaurant was really good. I had
Expensive.
Yeah.
Expensive. And now I will say, to be kind of funny, it wasn't like I had to pay tickets to buy stuff.
Oh.
I used actual money.
Okay,
You know.
so for some context, to those people who weren't the Nova Open, they had the Nova Open Cantina, and it was $2 a ticket, and they realized halfway through that they were charging way too many tickets for some of the items, and they had to kind of readjust some of their prices. But even then, dude, I like a little donut, like a little regular donut, not even like a monster glazed donut or something like that. You're talking like a Dunkin' Donut style donut was $6.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I only bought one drink,
It was
to
3
be honest
tickets,
with you.
dude. It was 3
Th-
tickets
that's-
for it.
I literally went to the bar, and first of all, there was like 6 bars. It was kind of wild. Like
Yeah.
as soon as you walked out of the exhibit from the game, there was a bar to your left, a bar to your right. You turn the corner, there's a bar there. You walk down the hall, there's a room with another bar and food. I'm like, all right, are we alcoholics here? Like, what's going on? So I go to the bar, and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm not a big drinker, so I'm like, can I get an amaretto sour? They're like, we can't make that. I'm like, all right, what about a White Russian? We can't make that either. Maybe they can do it down the hall. I'm like, all right, go down the hall. The guy says he can't do it either. I'm like, what can you make? I like little foo drinks with some liquor. That sounds great. You know,
Yeah.
make you a margarita. I'm like, all right, how much? He's like, how much money? And he's like, tickets. I'm like, okay, stop playing with me. How much is? He has 5 tickets. I'm like, all right.
Oh
And I go
my
back out there,
gosh.
and I'm literally like, can I get 5 tickets for like $10? I'm like, holy crap, this drink is $10. This better be a damn good drink.
Yeah, right.
So I'm egging the guys on. There's like 10 staff members, and I'm the only one there. I'm getting kind of a troll. And I'm like, all right, this better be the best damn 5-ticket drink I've ever had in my life. If my man didn't pull out a 5-ounce cup, fill it with a whole bunch of ice, and start pouring me liquor, I was like, this piece of what the hell? This is
Yeah.
like 2 sips.
Yeah.
But I will say that it was quite delicious. 2 sips. I will say. You know.
But still, though, I mean, like, the best deal they had was this ham sandwich with, like, a kind of a foot long.
Yeah.
And that was, like, 6 tickets. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was comparable to, like, going down to the food trucks. But, honestly, like, I did better when I went down and had lunch in the hotel restaurant.
Yes.
I got an amazing club sandwich, some amazing fries, and
Fries
it was
were
the same
delicious.
price. It was the same price as if I had gotten this kind of, little sandwich with like a Gatorade. It
Yeah.
was in fact more that little sandwich and a Gatorade.
No,
So-
I mean, I spent quite a bit of money 2 days in a row. I got the ribeye the day before. It was like $60, so bear in mind it's very expensive. But
Yeah.
it was like better than Ruth Chris, better than
Wow, that's high praise there.
Yeah, it was damn delicious, perfectly cooked. The garlic mashed potatoes, the green beans. I mean, everything was just fluffy, delicious. And I had that on Wednesday night, the first night. So on Thursday after the invitation, I'm like, let's do it again. Another $60 steak. We're having a good time.
Right.
And so I'm double staking at that point. I'm smiling. I'm drinking alcohol. So I'm already feeling good.
Yeah.
I'm walking on clouds. But of course, as soon as I went upstairs, I crashed and crashed hard.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And, but yeah, so the next day.
Yeah.
The next day is the GT. The next day is the thing that I was the most excited about. GTs are fun. I get to play against people I've never played against. And when you play in the Invitational, you're playing against people you normally play against because you're normally, if you're invited to an Invitational, you're normally playing at the top tables. And if you play on the top tables, you're normally kind of playing against similar people or the same people, maybe with different lists or the same list. Right. And so a GT is great because I get to play against, honestly, a whole bunch of people I've never really had the opportunity to. And so I'm nervous, I'm excited, and at this point, after they call me for my my first game, I go there and I'm like, all right, who do I get to play? And like I mentioned earlier, my worst match is Caradron Overlords.
Oh my gosh, that's right out of the gate.
And my first match is Caradron Overlords. So I'm already thinking, like, who set me up? Who? Because I've said it to multiple people. I'm like, the only army that can beat me is Caradron Overlords. That's the only army that can beat me. And I know the first game you could set up technically with like a judgment. So I'm being a little cheeky with my brother and my friends. I'm like, who set me up? Who did this? This is pretty gangster. Yeah. And I'm just having a little bit of fun with it at that point, which I doubt, of course, they set me up. But if they did, that's savage. And I'm playing him, and first of all, it's against an amazing guy. I've seen him so much, Joe Shoemaker. And so I know him. We haven't really had a chance, but he's such an amazing opponent. Very friendly, very down to earth. Even though I do know him, again, I haven't played him, and his army looks gorgeous. I mean, he literally has he's playing, Masters in the Sky. He has his big old, ironclad. He has inside that ironclad. He also has gun haulers. 2 of them. He has his thunderers that do like 30 attacks, 2s on 2s, -3, craziness, shooting. He has his admiral. He has Purple Sun that's going to come out and do a whole bunch of damage.
And it's in a bottle, so it goes off automatically.
Oh my gosh, it was such a scary thing. Yeah. And so I'm positioning my stuff where I'm like, all right, so if I stay outside of 3 inches from my front, he can't instantly kill my Lord or Karos. And my Change Caster, I'll put him in a position where he can shoot him and kill him, but I'll be fine. My Lord's on a 3+, my Karos is on a 4+, my Incarnate he's not going to shoot because he knows he's not going to do it. If I keep the Incarnate outside of 3, he can't drop him a level and then kill him, so I'll protect him at least for, my turn. If I make him go first, I have a chance. If I go first and he goes back-to-back, I'll lose the whole game and the whole tournament's done and I'm not going to win, because it's differential. And with Tzeench, as I mentioned before, I'm always playing behind, so the points in the game are always very close. So if I lose one game, I'm pretty much out of the tournament.
Yeah.
And I know this. And so I'm like, okay, what do we do? And I don't really understand all of his stuff, even though I've talked to him about it. I didn't know his Thunders did like 30 damn hits at 2s on 2s, -2, but with Purple Sun, -3. Yeah. And again, so all I decided to do in that match, give him first turn because I can't take a double. And I might go twice. And if I go twice, I think I'm fine, unless he kills all my stuff in one turn. Yeah. And that was the worry. So I decided to go Finest Hour on Karos proactively. So we both were on a 3+. And whatever he shoots, depending on where that Thunders shoot, I'll do all-out defense. I had actually very good cheating dice, too. I literally rolled 5 or 6 5s and 6s. And that's amazing because you only roll 9 dice. And whatever you roll, that's what you can use in the game for armor saves. And my list, I don't really need them except for armor saves. And I can't say how many games where I've rolled a whole bunch of 3s, 2s, and 1s. And I roll very average, where I'll roll like 1 or 2 6s and 1 5 maybe, and rest are 4s and below. Right. But this game I rolled kind of hot. I was like, thank you, Tzeench. Let's go. And so I did all that side, 3+, 3+, and I knew he was nervous about Karos because he can change once per game ability. He can do a flat 6 mortal wounds onto his character, put a spawn next to his unit that can't flee now, and then I can charge with the Incarnate. So I knew he was nervous of Karos, and so I wanted to give Karos the best chance of winning. And he took the first, of course. I gave it to him, and he brought hell upon me. Put his Ironclad in the corner, which I thought was a big mistake, because if I brought my Incarnate over there and I killed it, which I could very easily do, then all of his models inside would die, and he had like 10 Thunders, 3 characters, and I'm like, that's not the smartest place to put it, but I do understand you want to protect yourself, but I'm not saying that to him, of course. This is just me thinking in my head while he's playing. He brought his gun haulers, he brought his other small medium boat, he brought all those characters, he did the full thing, he did the bottle, and what he cares about is the -1 armor, so he brought my Karos and Lord to a 4+ save. And then, of course, with the shots going -2, more, it was quite dangerous. So he opened up with the Thunders, and once he did that, I was like, all right, all-out defense, Karos. I wish he would have shot with his smaller D6 damage ones to see if I would have possibly used my all-out defense and then switched the target to the other turkey just to kill him. But he didn't, and he focused all his Thunders and literally was like, all right, Kaleb, take 17 or 18 -3 saves on a 3+. Brought me to a 5-up save with my all-out defense. And I'm like, all right, 5-ups. Okay, you know what? It's pointless for me to use my cheating dice because, there's no guarantees, and I really need those for his D6 damage ones.
Right.
Let's just roll these 17 dice and see if I roll a bunch of 5s. And I rolled enough to where I had 3 wounds left. He did 11 wounds, and I'm like, that was a decent amount of 5s. Wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was a good amount, just slightly above average.
Yep.
And so I'm like, all right, that was good. And then from there, he had to finish Karos, and so he was like, all right, now my 3d6 character is going to shoot at you. Take your saves. And I'm like, all right, they're only 1 wound each, and he only did 4 wounds. Let me use 1 cheating dice so I'm alive, and then I'll roll 3. Right? Or no, it was like, he did like 3. So I had 1. I always made sure I can stay alive with 1 wound. So I'll take 1 cheating dice, and then I'll roll 2. And I'm like, oh, I passed both. I'm like, shit, okay, all work. All right, he's like, next character, 3d6 dice. And he missed all his hits because they're like 4s on 4s. And then he was like, next character, 7 dice, take 2 saves. I'm like, well, I can't die from these. Roll them, take 1 wound. I got 2 left.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's like, all right, first big attack. And I'm like, I save it. Second big attack. I save it. He's like, all right, take these 12 hits, take 7 dice. I'm like, crap, that's 7, -2. All right, let me just roll them. Rolled them. I died. Even with Karos' ability, wouldn't work. But he's almost released every single thing. His Ironclad had to shoot it with his big attacks. He only had 2 of the small gun haulers to shoot the Lord.
Yeah.
And so I saved 1 with a roll, and then I failed my other one, and he did like D6 and did 3 wounds. So at that point in the game, he blew his load, and he killed Karos. He killed my, I guess my acolytes on my right-hand side. So my acolytes are gone. Karos is gone. He weakened my Zangors. I actually had to pick up a couple of them also because of coherency issues. And all I had left alive was my Lord with a few wounds, my Incarnate, my little Change Caster, some Zangors, and my unit of acolytes. And and it was enough for me.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you got out of the first round barely, but but you did win big though. And let's talk about the scoring for the grand tournament, right? We said earlier it's a differential score, so I think if you won 27 plus victory points to your opponent 0, that you would get the max score of 20, right? 20 to nothing.
Yeah.
If and it kind of went down. There's a whole table. It went down. So if you had a differential of like 5 or more, something like that, then maybe you were at like 16-4 or something like that. The winner getting 16, the loser getting 4. And the way that they ranked the tournament too, it wasn't just. I mean, the differential scores you added up, and then whoever got that moved to the top. But if you notice, and I don't know that many people noticed this right on because they went so heavy explaining the differential system, but they ranked in the tournament. They ranked you first by games won or lost, and then battle points.
Gotcha.
And the battle points was that differential that you would add up, right? 16 plus 10 plus 16 plus whatever.
Which is not fair because my brother's piggy army destroys people in 1 or 2 turns, and the differential's much bigger. Jealous.
Yeah. So, I mean, you obviously had some strong opinions about this differential, and so did Anthony Trentinelli, who was playing your list essentially. I mean, he was on the show the last podcast and told me that he was wholesale copying your list, and he was very, very clear about that. But I caught up with him after Saturday. No, it was Sunday. Oh no, sorry. It was Saturday. Saturday afternoon after the 5th round, so the cutoff to the elite. I caught up with him, and he was like, "I hate the scoring differential." And he kind of he referred to the list, and he says this list of Tzeench in this army is not meant to win explosive games. They are meant to grind it out, control the board, and give you a win or a loss. They're not like this list isn't one that's gonna take you 20-0 very often. Is what he was saying. I don't know what the validity is to that, but I figure that if anybody knew Kaleb like you did.
No, I mean Anthony's not wrong. My army again it's to crawl back from losing the first 2, maybe 3 rounds of a game, but at that point to swing so heavily to where you score nothing and I keep scoring on my last 2 to 3 turns. And so he's not wrong. The points seem to be a lot closer. Unless the matchup is very favorable for you. Speaking about Anthony playing, my list, first of all, it's kind of one of those things. It's nice to see somebody who's a high-end player like Anthony thinking, that, hey, my list is really good. I really want to give it a go. And it's kind of it's almost like an honor thing, and I really appreciate
it. Is kind of flattering.
Yeah, it's nice because it's not a normal list. It's not something that I've never seen anyone play my exact lists. Maybe something similar, but never exact. And so it was definitely cool. But to speak to his point, he's absolutely right. It's a crawling army, and if you lose one game, I definitely would have been, I wouldn't say sour, but a little bit more opinionated about the differential because it really does help those armies that are like, the Nurgle drowned men where they're going to push you in and you're just stuck there for 3 or 4 turns killing them. You might kill their whole army, but at that point you only get 1 round of scoring.
Yeah, you're not getting your battle tactics, you're not getting your each round VP, the victory points that you're getting, right? So Nurgle's able, that drowned men list in particular is able to grow that divide very quickly.
No, absolutely. And the same with my brother's piggy army. It's like 16 pigs. Run in, first turn, just blow up your whole army, back out with Bloodtooth 8 inches again, see what you can do, and then just rinse and repeat as you try to score. And so the differential's tough. And this is the first time they've had a game like this. And I'll be honest, if every tournament went to this from now on, I would be hard-pressed to keep playing a list that's similar to what I'm playing now because it's a long, technical, tactical list that's made to lose so that it can win later.
Now, does it change your opinion of the way that they scored it, knowing that they scored it games 1 first and then battle point second?
I mean, it's the same thing because if you lose a game, you're now all the way on the bottom of all the 4-1 people.
That's true.
And you're not winning as high as they're winning, and so they're going to be above you, and that's. I don't know where Anthony finished. I believe he did lose 1 game.
Yep.
And only
he was
losing
in the top 20 still, but outside of the elite 8.
If you're not in the top 8, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Your army is very good about winning and losing, right? Just straight wins and losses.
Yes.
So in theory, if you can win all of your games, then the point differential actually really doesn't matter.
No.
If you can go 5-0. And in fact, I think we saw that there was a couple 5-0 people that had lower battle scores than some 4-1 people that actually didn't make the cut.
Yes, we did. We did see that. Absolutely.
So it's funny because I think Anthony is half right? Yes, the scoring in the tournament does favor certain armies over others. However, even if you win your game by 1 victory point, you're still going to make the top 8 if you win each of your games.
Yeah.
So you could just play a straight win-loss strategy.
Correct.
And still make it.
100%.
Right.
And that's literally what I was going for. I didn't care how many points I won by.
Yeah.
I was never trying to, stop my opponent from getting everything he wanted to get, and unless it was feasible for me to do so. It was just me making sure that I could win the game. So I'm always thinking, it's kind of funny when people say like 2 turns ahead, but I am. At literally on turn 3, I'm always thinking, all right, what's your grand strategy? Just double check again. Okay, so you need to have more stuff in my deployment zone. I need to have more stuff in your deployment zone. At this state of the game, you can probably get 2. Let me make sure I have 3. Let me start thinking about my summoning stuff. Kid in that corner, so every time I create a spawn and I put that spawn within 3 inches, I'll flee that spawn out.
Yeah.
As long as it's not within the domination range. Because I don't really, spawn's not going to do that much damage. I don't need to hold that unit up. Let me just flee him out so I can have 1 more than you for the next 2 to 3 turns.
Yeah.
And just thinking about, that kind of stuff just to win the game, not necessarily to crush your opponent.
Yeah. All right, so who was your second round?
Oh, no, we can't go there yet. I need to talk about Joe for 1 more second in my first game.
All right, let's hit Joe up again.
Joe, we talked about it at the end of the game, and I told him he could have just completely raffled stomped my ass so hard, but he made one of the biggest mistakes that I didn't see right away because I didn't know how powerful his Thunderers were.
Oh, right.
And what I mean by that is my Incarnate was positioned outside of 3 inches because of the Purple Sun. But because of that, my domination range was wholly within 10 inches of my Zangors and also my Acolytes. And I was just within 3 inches of my Acolytes to where I'm in combat with them. If he would have killed my Lord, instead of focusing Kairos, well, now my reroll casting, dispelling, unbinding is gone. My general's gone from my command points. My Incarnate is stuck in combat and will kill my own stuff for 2 turns. So even if I go next, I can't move.
Oh, I see.
I have to kill myself.
Yep.
So instead of me going to kill his big old, boat, Ironclad, I would kill myself. So just as much as I won Nova, I could have simply have lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I as much as I do pride myself on being a good player, and I do pride myself on being tactical, my tactical mistake was actually making Kairos finest hour. I should have made my Lord finest hour. Kairos would have been a 4+, my Lord would have been a 2+, and then a 1+ with the, finest time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that was, I would say that was my mistake. And if I have to play it again, I would do that and allow Kairos to die quicker. And then more shots, would have went the Lord, but I still would have saved him. But I would have guaranteed my Incarnate would not be killing my own stuff versus taking the chance.
Right.
So that was the only thing I wanted to say because we and Joe talked about it, and I want to give kudos where kudos due because he saw it as well. And when your opponent sees his mistake, he's not going to make that mistake again.
Right.
And I think that was really, really smart of him to catch that. It was great. But my next game was against Tem. Tem is a new player to AOS, and I love to see that. People who are new but are still kicking butt because he had to win his first game. And he was playing Stormcast, and his list was very, very top-heavy. I mean, or I guess mid-heavy. He only had 1 character, a Lord Relictor.
Okay.
And then he had 2 units of Dragoth, the Guard Tempest.
Oh, yeah.
2 units of 4. So it wasn't units of 2, it was 2 units of 4.
Yeah.
So big old guys, and they're in the sky. And he also had a unit of 4 dragons.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very, very mid-heavy, very, very strong. And he also had a chariot. And the chariots don't play. And he had a battle regiment, and he was a 1-drop, and I was a 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, even though he was a new player, he was playing some awesome stuff. And so he had his chariot on the table, he had his character on the table, he had his Vindictors on the table, so he had 3 things on the table, and he had 3 things in the sky. His 2 units of 4 of those big knights. He has dragons in the sky, and he gave me first turn like a baller he would. And I'm like, man, you a slick junior. But again, Kairos killed his only general, killed his character turn 1.
Oh.
And so no more free command points.
Yep.
And then I released Purple Sun and Gnashing Jaws and Spell Portal. And this is where I was trying to use them to defend myself as much as I can. But again, when he went first, and I summoned as well, so I created a big old arc of protection, so it would take him 2 turns to get to me, and I summoned on the top a unit of blues, just to stop the unit of 4 guys coming down, because with the Incarnate, anytime somebody's playing dragons, you could just pretty much take out the dragons and take out the Incarnate out of the game, at least until turn 3 or 4. But the Incarnate will tend to win every time, because every dragon that dies, you go up a level, and of course the dragons will kill you and bring you down a level. So it's like +1, -1, +1, -1, and so it's just a big old seesaw. But those 4 will be done. So the issue is the fulminators, those units, and he the only thing that saved me in that game is he didn't roll the back-to-back churns to kill me, and also he killed my on the top part where I summoned those 10 blue whores. He killed them with his fulminators very easily, but then I rolled the 5+ and I rebuffered right in front of the dragons to stop the dragons from going. So I got lucky with the 5+, but when I was able to go, and he didn't go back to back, and I was able to play Fairhammer, my spells literally just picked up those 4 units and weakened the other ones, and then it was pretty much game. There's nothing he could do, because at that point the dragons are taken out of the game, the 4 fulminators taken out of the game, and the other 4 fulminators are starting to be weakened, and now they're having to face another unit of 10 blues and the rest of my army that are just tying them up, and so they couldn't move for 2 turns, and then I'll have another turn to cast spells and just finish them off. So that game was very quick, very fast, but it could have went south if he would have rolled back-to-back. I still had Karos's ability to stop a charge, so that still would have saved me, I guess. But very nice opponent, very good guy. It was kind of one of those things. Just kind of, I had the right pieces to stop his pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you kind of get those little random matchups in round 2 still, right? Because you've got people who won, people who lost, and depending on how that first one is, you're like you're still shaking out who should be in the top. Obviously, right? And so I don't think it's until game 3 that you really start to face your real opposition of your level, right? Because that's where the rubber kind of meets the road. So who was your number 3? Gareth
Thomas.
Oh, okay.
And I never had the opportunity to play him. We're talking, we were just having a good time. I said, I think I'm going to go to LVO this year. He's like, I run LVO. I'm like, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had Reese Robbins on the show early on to talk about FLG and LVO and like that. So he's part of the ownership of Frontline Gaming that sponsors LVO, and you see their ads everywhere. And Gareth Thomas is his partner, right? So that's cool that he came out and was playing.
Oh no, it's awesome. And the whole time I'm playing my opponents, I'm giving them some of my tokens and measuring sticks, and I'm giving them away for free just because my opponent, I want to give them something for free. I'm Christmas. That's my army. It's a Christmas theme Tzeench. Here's a gift. And he liked them actually, and he placed an order with me, and I was like, that's really awesome. And so and it was great playing him. But he's playing a Khorne army that's almost like a direct counter to my army, because on a 6-up, whatever spells I target him with, they don't go off, and he also gets a blood tithe point. And after 2 blood tithe points, he can dispel a spell for free.
Yeah.
And he has like a priest who gets blood tithe points, and every time someone dies, he gets another point, and every 2 he gets a spell, and they never go away. It's not like they used to, where he'll collect 6 and they go away. He'll just be like, all right, I'm gonna use 2 to dispel, I'm gonna charge you in this one, and then I'm gonna summon something on this one. So it was actually quite difficult. And he had the Incarnate in his list, and it takes me 2 turns to kill it. He had 3 units of Flesh Hounds, he had a Demon Prince to stop my charge, he had the Priest, he had the Insensate Rage, he had Scarbrand, he had an Unfederated Fury, that if you got within like 22 or 24 inches, they're just charging you, and you could do nothing about it. But he had more drops than a 2 drop, so I made him go first, do his thing, kind of almost like a waste. He brought up his Incarnate, and I decided, since that's the only model he brought up, I decided to play it safe and just collect like 1 battle tactic, get within range to cast like a 6 mortal wound spell at the Incarnate, do a bunch of damage to it. Don't put anything physical in front of it, like to do combat damage, just all shooting. I got it up to like 13 or 14 wounds. He dropped the level to level 1. We rolled off, and I can't remember who won this one. I believe he did, and he brought up Scarbrand to kill a unit. I can't 100% remember who went next, but needless to say, I targeted his incarnate again with all my spells and was able to remove it from play, but then his Scarbrand came up and killed a whole bunch of units, and then my incarnate went into the Scarbrand, and I had to use Karos' ability because I rolled like a 1 on my big attack that does 4 damage, and I had to use Karos just to make it to where it either wounded or he failed to save, and I killed Scarbrand. But again, every time I do this, he's gaining Blood Tithe points, and every spell I cast is stopping spell, so the game was freaking close. I did not expect it. I felt very confident going in the game, but playing the game and his skills as a player and his ability to know what models to pull, his ability to pile in to stop me from piling in to actually doing damage, his ability to pile away, very strong player, amazing opponent. I've never rolled an 18 with Gnashing Jaws, but damn it, if I didn't roll an 18 in that last round and kill all 5 of his Fleshhounds he summoned, and I did it, and I'm like, that was pretty cool. I rolled an 18 and I rolled a 2+. They're all dead.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and Gareth couldn't believe it either. He was like, that's bullshit.
Awesome.
But no, it was a really back and forth game. It was a tight game. It was actually a close game. It was a nail biter. If you watched it, you were like, wow, this is combat versus casting, magic defense versus magic offense.
Right.
You know, free summoning versus free summoning. What the hell is going on?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that concluded day 1 of the GT. We already know you went and got steak and probably ended up crashing again that night. You know, because now you've got 7 games under your belt. So we report back the next morning. This is Saturday morning.
Yep.
And now it's starting to feel for real, right? You're in game 4. You're 2 games away of being able to crack the top 8 and get into the single elimination playoffs. Who's your 4th opponent Saturday morning?
It's Justin Hagelin.
Okay.
And Justin's playing Night Hunt, and that's the match that I want to play against.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
That's my direct counter.
Which list did he have? Did he have the Blade Guys list or the Heroes?
He had the Scarlet Doom.
Okay, yep.
He had 2 Spirit Torments, Guardian of Souls. He had the 2 Crusaders, so the -2 damage. 2 units of 20 Revenants, Hex Race, Spirit Host, and more Hex Race, and Mirrormorn Banshees, Purple Sun, Bouncer's Honey, you know, Regiment, you know, the whole kit and caboodle. He had it all. But again, Tzeench literally just puts that army in such a bad position.
Yeah. The fact that they couldn't retreat from you is...
Can't retreat.
That's it. I mean, you're kind of done at that point because you rely so heavily on being able to get 3 inches out, retreat back in, knock down their save ward, or, you know, like, knock down their save. And with the Scarlet Doom, they have to charge in to be able to do all those mortal wounds.
Yeah,
so they'll do it maybe the first time, but you're not going to get it a second time.
Not really, because you got to think about, like, so I'm casting 13 spells. He's not stopping them.
That's right.
Right? And I'm killing characters. I'm doing 6 mortal wounds and stuff, putting a spawn in combat, so you have to deal with that. Then I'm charging in 10 blue horrors, barely touching... I'm using... Well, what I'm doing is I'm actually using Gnashing Jaws and Purple Sun to create a pincer move to where only 3 blade guys can actually swing against my blue horrors. Because I'm pinching the whole unit in with these 2 big endless spells, and you can only attack with 1 GV unit and then 2 GV units behind it because of the base size, and that's it. So I have 20 models -1 to hit versus a 4 to hit, 3 to wound with 6 attacks.
Yeah.
And so I took out a 20-man unit. My incarnate took out the other 20 with the other guy, and then my spell casting is just dominating. And the fact that you got, like, I'm playing these people, and you could tell that when you're playing, there's certain matches you could tell that it's just not going well for your opponent.
Yeah.
But he's not getting sour. He's not getting frustrated. He's smiling. He's having a good time. We're talking about, you know, our businesses. You know, he's the gentleman. I forgot the name of the business already. He makes all the mouse pad objectives. All the, you know, the objective markers that we use in the game. he makes them all, and we were talking about everything we're doing, and I'm talking about my stuff, and it was just a fun almost like relationship building environment where I'm like, hey, how about I give you this for free? And he's like, how about I give you that for free? I'm like,
nice.
Well, like, hell yeah.
It's like you just swapped soccer jerseys.
Oh, hell yeah. We're like having a good time. And I'm like, this is amazing. And so now I have to send him some Tzeench, PNG images so I can get some custom things created. And it was a great game. But my list was made to counter that list.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I don't know. There's not much more I could really,
Yeah, and you probably won pretty handily that one too.
I did.
So, which just sucks for him, but I mean that's the way it goes, right? Gotta know your meta. Gotta know your meta. So, so this brings us to the final game of the general portion of the GT, game number 5. Yep. And at this point, there are only 8 people who are 4-0. Everybody else is 3-1 or below. And so you guys are going to whittle that down to 4 who are 5-0, and then there's going to be 4 4-1s that end up getting into the elimination series of 8 to 4 to 2 to 1. So your final game, number 5, who are you playing?
I am playing John Brock II.
Oh, he had dragons, didn't he?
No. So
that was
John Brock III.
Yes.
So this is what was so funny about it is, so I'm playing the father, John Brock II, and I played him multiple times before at Palladium Games in PA, and I've played his army multiple times, so I'm extremely familiar with everything he can do to me, and I did change my list on him, so he's not 100% positive on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I'm playing my Tzeench army. Anthony, who's playing literally my army, is playing his son, John Brock III, on stream.
Hilarious. Okay. That's
so the same army is playing the father-son.
Yeah.
And Anthony beat his son, and I beat his father. I know they want to kill Tzeench right now. I'll tell you that right now. But I've never had the opportunity to play his son, and I wanted to because he is an amazing player at such a young age. And you saw him on stream, and well composed, well versed in what he could do. And his father is an amazing opponent as well. His father's a great guy. He's very supportive. Knows his Nurgle very well. It was just a great experience. And but playing against him, I knew the way he plays.
Flies and drowned men as well.
Yeah, he played drowned men, but he played flies. Only 2 units, not all flies. He actually plays like a hybrid. So he plays the Bloab, the Rot Sprue. He plays the Lord of Plague. He plays the Lord of Affliction, so he has one guy in a drone, the commander, and he has one guy on foot. He has another Demon Spew, monster. He has 10 Blight Kings, 2 Bluskull Light Lords, another 2 Bluskull Blight Lords, and he also has Nurglings. But what he always does when I play him, he takes his Blight Lords and he runs them down the sides of the table, and that's very effective because it kills my Acolytes. And I didn't want him to kill one of the units of Acolytes, and I try to make him not kill both. So I try to retreat with one and then use Karos' ability on the other. But I wanted to make sure that I can get his unit that wants to make the charge within range of my spells. Yeah. And so I retreated one, I used Karos on the other one, but now I'm in range of all my spells to blow up the model on the left and to still keep my Acolytes alive so I can start moving them up the table for other battle tactics like breaking through enemy, barge through enemy lines, or just to constantly shoot 10 shots, 4s on 3s, -1 or 2, doing damage, and still keep giving me fate points for summoning. And his, the actual Blight Lords, they're 220 points, so that's a big part of his army if I can use it. So I knew it was a good use of ability, but it wasn't a great use, but it was good enough. And so I basically did what I normally do. I played what we call the clock game, where I rotate my entire force in a clock form, going from the 6 hand, which is my side of the table, and I start moving to the 8s, 9s, and 10s, and 12s, and then back down to 1, and keep doing a big old circle because my stuff moves so fast and I summon things. And the game kind of just bunch of spells like you would expect, killing Blight Lords. There was one part of the game where he brought his 10-man unit into combat with, this is not the greatest move of his, into my Incarnate, my Lord, my Zangors, an Acolyte unit. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to pump up enough damage to do this, and you're going to take 2 monstrous reactions, which will be a 3+, you don't get to do stuff, along with, a 2+ stomp.
Mortal wounds, yeah, exactly.
And he's still going to have a lot of attacks, but he can't do all the attacks against one unit.
Right.
So he has like 3 or 4 guys on my Lord, 3 or 4 guys on this, 3 or 4 guys on
once
this.
you start splitting attacks like that unit just becomes super ineffective.
Correct, and that's literally what happened. And he recognized it as soon as he did it. He goes, I should not have done that. Yeah. And I'm like, probably not, because now all my spells, that's going to be 25 mortal wounds, plus my Incarnate hitting you 2 turns in a row.
Yeah.
And by me getting rid of that unit, that's a 500-point unit, plus a 220-point Blight Lords that I was able to remove.
Yeah.
And then his big old monsters were staying really close to each other, moving slowly, and so I kept just putting endless spells within. And this is a tactic where, how fast does your models move? They move 8 or 9 inches.
Yeah.
So you move the endless spell like right where it's to where he can't finish his move, and he has to only move 6 inches.
Right. Yep. Again, another effective use of those endless spells in their big old bases, right? So, yeah, very good, very good. All right, so you finish out the GT right there. You move into the top 8. Your first game of the top 8 is almost immediately.
Oh my God, so tired of this one. I'm like, what do you mean we're gonna play again?
Exactly. And so you've got 3 more games, right? Potentially, because this is single elimination at this point here with the top 8. Now, I believe you went into this ranked number 3, right?
Yes, my brother was number 1.
Yep.
Then Gavin was number 2, and I was number 3.
Okay, so you ended up playing the number 6 player, because I believe Scooter ended up playing Bill Hennessy, who was ranked number 8.
Yes.
There. So who did you end up playing?
So I actually had the opportunity to play Jacob Brandon.
Okay.
So Jacob actually beat Anthony. So Jacob beat my list.
Wow. Okay, that's hilarious. A twofer.
Yeah.
He got a Tzeench twofer.
Yeah, he had to play the same archetypes. Now, I know Jacob very well, and again, amazing opponent. I'm actually going to make some tokens for him for his Skaven army, some custom ones for just his specific army. But he beat Anthony, and so it's time for me to get some revenge with some Tzeench. I was like, it's revenge time.
Yeah, right.
And so and Jacob, again, his army's super strong. He has the Vermin Lord Corruptor with the Blade of Corruption and a flaming weapon. He has his Warplock Engineer to really empower his Warp Lightning Cannon. He has another Vermin Lord Deceiver, very strong model. He has a Plague Priest for his priest. He has Clan Rats that are literally there to just sit on objectives and count as extra models. He has Gutter Runners that do a bunch of mortal runes, like 15 of them. He has, his Warp Lightning Cannon that's double, shooting and doing a bunch of damage. He has 2 units of Giselles to pick up your back line. He has another unit of Gutter Runners to do even more damage. Expert Conquerors, like everything. So, it was a lot for me. But again, I kind of knew what his stuff does. And so you're like, all right, how fast... The big concern I had was I can't do anything against his Warp Lightning Cannon or his 2 units of Giselles. His Giselles are going to do about 3 mortal wounds a turn and some damage, so I'll use my Fate Dice to stop those. I can't do nothing against his Warp Lightning Cannon, so I'm just hoping he rolls a 4, 5, or 6, and so he doesn't do a crazy amount of mortal wounds to my turkeys turn 1, but who knows what he's going to roll.
Right.
What I do know, though, is his Gutter Runners of 15 and his Gutter Runners of 5 will do a bunch of mortal wounds if I keep my Lord, Karos, or Incarnate, or my Changecaster within range when he pops up outside of 9 inches.
I see.
So I just made sure I stayed outside of that range on my turn 1, and I gave him the turn.
Yep.
And I don't want to get, stuck. And once he did that, this game, it was a lot of back and forth. I don't know if you want to go play by play, but basically he did exactly what I thought he was going to do: pop up his Gutter Runners, shoot all my Acolytes and Zangors, and take care of the side units. Shot the Warp Lightning Cannon at max power at 12. I believe he rolled a 5, and he still did like 5 or 6 wounds. He shot his Warplight Giselles. 1 unit didn't hit so well, and I had to use one of my cheating dice to save, and the other one hit decent. I used my cheating dice to save. And so that was pretty much his turn. He moved up his clan rats to set on objectives. He empowered his Deceiver and Vermin Lord to charge. I thought he was playing a little aggressive with one of his Vermin Lord, a little bit too close where I can cast spells. And so I kind of did. My turn 1, I pretty much cast enough spells to kill one of his big monsters. I'm like, hey, if I can get rid of a 400-point monster in turn 1,
right?
Fuck yes. And if I can tie up his gutter rudders and stop them from just continuously destroying me, even better. And so I did the whole, and of course I still need to deal with his Warp Lightning Cannon as Giselle, so I can't let that keep doing what it's doing. And he, even though he rolled 12 dice, on ones he takes D3 damage. He only rolled 1-1 out of 12 dice. I'm like, damn it. And then when he rolled his D3, he only did like 1 wound to himself. I'm like, damn it. Oh, lucky bastard.
Yeah, right.
And so, of course, I'm having fun. I'm talking shit. And but I did what I said I was going to do. I killed one of his 400-point units. I killed a unit of his 5 of his gutter rudders. I weakened the 15, but didn't do enough. And then pretty much the roll-off happened. And, again, I can't remember who went next, but when he went again, his Warp Lightning Cannon went again. I healed the 6 wounds down to like 3, and then I healed myself again. I healed like 1 or 2 more, and I still had a couple wounds on me, but it wasn't enough to where he can kill me. So, but the same thing happened where his big Vermin Lord came up with a bunch of damage, and like straight up just nuked a unit and dropped like my Incarnate a level or something like that. I can't remember.
Wow.
My Incarnate dropped a level really, really fast, and I think from all of his shooting, and it was just an amazing amount of shots.
Yeah.
But again, now I'm a level 1, and his Vermin Lord's right there, and I'm afraid of going against him because he's going to attack first. And I'm like, well, what else do I do? I'm casting spells. I need to start weakening up his other stuff. His shooting, I can't take another turn of his shots. I need to summon stuff. I need to guarantee the charge. Like, so many things are going through my brain, and I'm like, all right, I need to deal with this. I need to deal with his gutter runners. If I don't, he's going to take my objective from me. I got to kill his gutter runners, or he can reposition to have more hits. And so it was literally like, all right, this spell has to do 4 damage. I got it. This spell has to do this. This spell has to do this. He can't stop. It was one of those situations where, everything kind of went my way at that point.
Yeah.
And I was able to summon a unit of 10 blues and guarantee the charge into his clan rats, which then tied up his unit of shooters. What do you call them? The Giselle. So 1 unit of 3 were gone off the table. I was able to mortal wound the lightning cannon off the table at that point because it was just too crazy, and he's not, even though he shot the second time, he rolled like 2 1s and rolled another 1-1. I'm like, okay, you're not doing enough damage to yourself, and you're shooting me like a monster. And it basically came down to my Incarnate charging his Deceiver, him doing a bunch of wounds, but I went up a level and then down a level, so I'm still level 1, but I was able to kill him.
Nice.
And it was literally back and forth, and I was able to finish off the 15 gutter runners, so now the 5 and the 15 are gone. One of his units of 20 clan rats are weakened. The other 20 are hiding. He dropped in his Plague Priest and did like 2d6 mortals to my Change Caster. He's dead. It was literally one of those like tic-tac-toe, but at the end of the day, my 2 turkeys were alive. My main damage things were alive. I'm still able to summon. His Warp Lightning's dead. A Giselle's tied up. His other Giselles are alive, but they can't do enough to kill a turkey. I'm now repositioning him a lot more aggressively, so whoever goes next, all my spells are going to be there. And I got my revenge for Anthony.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And that finished out the 3rd day of straight Age of Sigmar games for you. You are 6 games deep at that point, and we were pretty hungry. We went and got Thai food after that.
Delicious. Oh my
really
God,
good.
was that delicious.
Yeah, it was really good. It was nice, too. It was such a nice night. We sat out on their little porch balcony area and had some food, and it was great. On the way back, you guys stopped for some drinks and watched a woman get propositioned by a guy and the boyfriend get really mad at it. So that was
crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
That was crazy. Literally, the guy was looking at a woman, knocking on her door, calling her a regular woman, which we all know what that means, and her boyfriend got all upset. Like, it was the whole thing. Me and my brother were like, let's get out of here.
Oh, dude, that area right there, too, because there's the Gentleman's Club that's right there.
Yeah.
And it's not a classy gentleman's club. Like, you
No.
can just tell from the outside, right? Not that I've been in that one, but it is not a classy gentleman's club. It's not in a classy part of town, and there are working women in that area right there. So the fact that that lady got propositioned and her boyfriend is like having a problem, it was kind of hilarious. But you two, I mean, you and Scooter are giants of men. Like, you just kind of were like, wow, this is wild. You know, like nobody was going to mess with you guys, but it was pretty hilarious.
I mean, a gun is still a gun, but again, most people don't approach us and try to fight. I mean, first of all, we don't do anything to deserve it.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of calm and collected and just trying to work our way through life, have a good time playing with toy soldiers.
Yep, exactly. So,
you know, the crazy part about this, though, is talking to my wife. And I'm like, hey, honey, I might be home Sunday. I might come home Saturday if I lose. I might be home Sunday. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. So when I call her, she's like, what kind of bullshit are you going to tell me that you're going to stay another day? And I'm like, well, I won. She goes, whoopie-doo-dah, fireball spell, good job.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, she could care less.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so you are now in the semifinals.
Yep.
And your first game of the day, I believe, is against Gavin?
Gavin.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So, Gavin, in a lot of people know, I mean, he is...
He's Mr.
top.
Texas.
Yeah, he's Texas. Well, first of all, I'm from Texas, and so I have a little heart for Texas, and I love Texas. When we went there for the U.S. Open last year, I felt like I was home. Everyone was friendly, everyone was family, everyone was just like it really made me want to go back. And seeing all the Texas guys when we went to the U.S. Open, it's just straight family. And Gavin is such a for the community player. Phenomenal player, very technical, very tactical, and I'm not somebody who really jokes a lot like my brother. When we play games, I'm very serious. I look like I'm almost angry, and it's not my intention.
And by the way,
it's not my intention at all. I'm just thinking, and Gavin is very similar though.
Yeah.
And so watching a game looks like two, overweight, grumpy boys playing a game. The commentators are probably like, they're I promise they're having a good time.
Right.
But yeah, so with Gavin, I don't I know his list. I don't see it in front of me because the BCP is broken off, but he had two of the Bastillodons that are combat orientated, so they still have a lot of mortals, but they're one up, armor save, stick you into combat guys. He had his Bastillodon who can attack twice with -1 Ren and 3 damage because I'm a demon. He had his Stegodon who can cast spells through. Well, the Slan can cast, the Croak can cast spells through him, so he can do his pulsation. Yep. He had a Skink Priest that he didn't want to put in the temple because he didn't want me to nuke it on turn 1 and stop his terrain ability. He had a bunch of Skinks that were expert conquerors on the table, 2 units of 10, I believe, and then or 1 unit 10 and 1 unit like 20 or 30, and then he also had some defense temple guard that are protecting his Croak because, of course, we all know how Croak works. And his grand strategy was to have models in each table quarter, and so for when I play him, I kind of I like the whole attacker defender for setting up terrain and being able to pick. So I roll my dice and I go to Arcane. Well, I'm not fucking giving him an Arcane. He's already +4 to cast in the spell. Right. I'm not making him +5. You get bent. But I also know that Slans are not going to be in the middle of the table, but my stuff will be. So I put both the Arcane in the middle 2 buildings of the table. So on turn 1, I just fly both my turkeys in the middle of the table. And so now my Lord is +3 to cast and dispel, while he is also +4, but I'm matching the lowest of the highs. Oh, helps me a ton.
Yep.
And so he only
at that point he's just like a +1 on you.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So
correct.
Yeah.
And with the fact that I'm matching my lowest to the highest, it gives me a huge advantage spell casting wise. And so now my threats, knowing that, my threats are get rid of his Skink Priest because he's going to jump in the building and I'm going to be close to the buildings and I don't want to be taking D3 mortal wounds on both my Lord and Karos, and for him to get the idea that he can just target fire one of my Lords down, right? Because I need both of them alive to stop Croak, along with putting the magic offensive spells onto everything else. But what I did was, on my deployment, I made sure I was outside of 3 of everything, and it's also the Nidus Pass, where you can teleport from one corner to the other corner. So I had to keep an Acolyte unit stringed around terrain, but within 9 inches of that corner. So I'm already playing down 1 unit, and I only have 7 units. And dropping a unit of my Acolytes is huge, because that's 10 shots and also some decent offensive capability. Nothing crazy, but still something that I don't want to lose. And he can just keep his land back there with his unlimited range cast and spelling Unbinding, along with his Temple Guard to protect him.
Now, does he have summoning ability to bring skinks in or anything?
No,
like that?
He's playing the -1 damage family. His ability is the -1 damage, and then having a Stegodon pulsate twice to get more units, or to do damage, or to heal, or have the Bastildon shoot twice, which again is humongous against me. So I did the same tactic I did against my first game, where I finest hour on turn 1 Karos.
Yeah.
And so wherever the Bastildon shoots, excuse me, I'm going to +1 best 1 day. Well, Gavin is such a technical and tactical player. He's trying to do what I think about a lot, which is, let me split the attacks. Where does Kaleb want to do +1 defense? Well, I didn't do it on nobody.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And the reason I did it, because I know he can shoot twice, and depending on who he wounds or who he does not wound, he'll do 4 or 5 attacks against the Lord, 4 or 5 attacks against the Karos. Depending on who passes their save and who does not, will dictate where he puts the rest of his attacks, which then will dictate where I give an extra +1 save.
Right.
And so he was being cheeky, and I could tell. And I also had cheating dice where I could be like, I could save 2 or 3 of these. Let me keep my Lord alive. He's more important than Karos, because he's the one that's giving me all the reroll cast and spelling Unbinding. So I kept the Lord alive. Karos still rolled decently, but still took 6 wounds. And then he unloaded, I believe, the majority of his second shots into Karos, which then I did a +1 save, used 1 or 2 cheating dice, along with rolling halfway decent, only taking another 3 wounds from that decision. But what I also made sure I positioned was my Incarnate can perfectly fit his base over top of the building, and put myself in a position where now I am only 7 inches away from his Bastillodon and both of his +1 armor save guys that are monsters, and they're all monsters, right?
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to be stuck there, and he might even drop me a level possibly, but I can possibly go up a level. But he is a 1-up armor save, right?
Yep.
And so my first thing was to do, let me attack the Bastillodon. So he did a pincer move where if I charge, I didn't see it too well, where I couldn't reach his Bastildon, but I thought I could. So I did 6 mortal wounds to the Bastildon, even though he had a +2 to save. He had a -1-up, but this brought him down to just a 1-up. And I figured with my -2 save, -3, because I had Purple Sun out there through the spell portal, and also the -4 rend on the big attack, I'd be able to drop it in 1 turn. Well, I wasn't able to, and but I stuck all 3 of those units in combat, which was huge for me. Because now all he has is 10 skinks, which are out of position, which my Acolytes and Zangors can go deal with. So I can take that tactic from him, or that objective from him. And his other 20, the Slan and the Stegodon, were on the other side. And so, and then I moved up all my stuff. And then on his turn, he shot with his Bastildon against my Incarnate, because that's what it's in combat with. I didn't care. He dropped me a level with all of his shots on everything on that turn. But at that point, he's casting his spell, and I don't know if he really thought about it. He cast his whole unlimited range spell and rolled a 9 or 10, and I'm like, all right, Lord of Change. Whoop! I dispelled it, and now I learned your spell. And you can just tell he's like, oh, you learned my spell. I'm like, yes, I did, with a big old smile on my face. So I mean, that's at the end of the day, it was a stupid close game between me and Gavin, and it came down to the very last turn of that game, of us casting spells and trying to maneuver and to dispel. It came down. There was a point where I did enough damage to kill his one of his monsters. He had to roll 2 dice, and if he rolled a single 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with 2 dice, I'm gonna kill it and go up a level. And then my Incarnate's alive, but he rolled double 6s.
Oh.
And so my incarnate went down a level and died again.
Oh my gosh.
But that was fine.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I was able to pick up all 3 of those models on my next turn because all my spellcasters were right there. And Purple Sun, making him roll a 1, and also Gnashing Jaws, 3d6, and he's only movement 5.
Oh, wow, okay.
And you're like, oh, I rolled a 12, and take 7 mortal wounds. All right, he's dead, and D6, he's dead, and D6, he's dead. Okay, they're all dead anyways, but the fact that if he would have rolled a 5 on one of those dice, my incarnate would have been alive too. It would have been even a stronger swing and not so close.
Right.
But, again, game of luck. I mean, there's many things I could have made a mistake on or didn't roll well, and he could have just took it from me as well.
Yeah.
But it's like playing a mirror match if you ever played against Tzeench. His is a little bit more well-rounded. Mine is definitely sharper in the casting area. But I feel like I'm playing the same army.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the final match, which was against you and your brother Scooter. Scooter was running his 18-pig army, 1 Maw Crusher, 2 War Chanters, and a Prophet, I believe, and a Mega Boss on foot.
Yeah, it was Mega Boss on foot. He had his Maw Crusher. He had 2 of his War Chanters. He had the Goblin Shaman in the back as an ally. 2 units of 6, 2 units of 3, I believe is his whole list. And I mean, the problem is, I feel like Tzeench, if you know what you're playing against 100%, it's going to be tough for you to lose.
Right.
Because I have so many tools. Like I talk about this on AOS Coach. It's like a Swiss Army knife. It's just you have so much, different things you can throw at him. And my brother knows my stuff too, so I know my brother was a little nervous of playing me because he knows what I'm capable of doing. And there is no going back to back against me because I'm a 2-drop and he's like a 4, 5, or 6.
Right.
And so I make him go first. And then there's no way he can go back to back.
Yep. Like
and so as he kills my front line, I make a new front line with summoning.
Yeah, and he knows he has to get up there because if he just stays back, you'll just move up. Do you know what I mean? And then it'll be all for naught. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so he wants to kill my front line. And people talked about in the chat where he made a mistake by bringing a 6-man unit up. But he charged me with a 3-man unit. He rolled a 1 with the 3-man unit, and I could have used Karos' ability to stop him from charging it. And I thought about it, and if he only brought in 2 units, I would have done it against that 3-man squad. Just so that it keeps my Acolytes and my Zangors alive, which is huge for me because it's almost as if, my bubble is still alive. His other 3-man unit made it in and wiped out all my Acolytes. But the 6-man unit tried to charge, and I used my 1 on that unit because he brought all 3 up, 6-man and 2 3s.
Oh, I see.
But the problem with that is that's only 6 is 30 wounds. That's only 60 wounds total, and that's a lot of wounds to deal with.
Yeah.
But when my spells can do like 25 just on the spells alone,
right,
and then I have all my shooting at -2 Ren, that's another 10 wounds.
Yeah.
And then I have my incarnate who can go up and do like another 10 to 12, wounds.
Yeah.
And leave them only with, 3 pigs left. It was one of those situations where it was just too much spells for him to deal with. He couldn't go back to back, so I never gave him the opportunity. I continue to summon blue whores every turn. He killed a blue whore unit. I rolled a 5+ and brought the whole unit alive.
Oh my gosh, that sucks.
I rolled a 1 on his Mega Mob Bros, whatever, on the side. And people thought that was a big deal. I mean, I personally didn't think so because I still had Gnashing Jaws and he's only a 4-inch move.
Yeah.
But I still got to roll a 2 up. Yeah. And again, he would only be able to possibly drop the incarnate 1 level, which again I don't really care, too much.
Yeah.
The big concern with him is he has no mortal wound protection.
Yep.
And
even some of your stuff, like he's let's see, his piggies are at a 4-up save, so you hit him with the -2, they're 6-up. I mean that's a big difference. Correct. For those piggies, like so. He smashes, he bashes, he does a ton of damage if he can get there, right? And I learned that the hard way playing your list. You're like, hey, you want to play a game? I was like, sure, done. Like, tabled in round 2. I was like, oh. Okay, great. Like this
That was
army,
fun.
this orc army that I thought was really good, really does not match well up against Tzeench, unfortunately.
Not
Yeah,
right now,
so-
but there's a new book coming, and we don't know what they're going to do completely. But again, playing my brother, it is very bittersweet. My brother plays this hobby because I play the hobby.
Yeah,
It's pretty well known that he probably wouldn't be playing it if I didn't play it. I love Warhammer.
yeah,
I love the building aspect. I love the playing aspect, and I love the people and the getting together with like-minded individuals.
yeah.
That's what's fun, and I want my brother to go to the U.S. Open. So it's almost like I want to win, sure. I want to go back and I want to win again, but I want my brother to go too.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, I really wish they did what they did last year, which was one best general, one best overall, so we're both flying up together. And it is cool. My mom was watching the stream. My dad was watching the stream. They called us during the game. Be nice to your brother. I'm being nice to my brother. The hell? He's the one that's picking on me and making fun of me, and it is what it is.
Now, do you guys ever play each other like casually, or?
No, almost
Yeah.
never.
Right.
And my brother doesn't really like playing against me because I play very technical, not really fun to play against armies. Tzeench is not a fun army to play against if you play lists the way I play lists.
It's not.
It's
I can
not.
attest.
It's not interactive. I'm like, okay, here, take. I'll be as funny as I can. I'm like, take 6 mortal wounds. Is that interactive?
Oh, it's interactive when you're removing all your models. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but it's not like what you said, where you had both of you and your opponent's army in the middle of the game, and you're swinging for
Yeah, that's
5
very true.
effing
Yes.
rounds, and
Yep.
take 10 wounds. You take 10 wounds. I heal 3. I heal 3.
Yeah.
I get the objective. I retreat. That's more, fun. What I'm doing is, I'm cheating.
Yeah.
I'm literally going. I'm +3 to cast. I'm re-rolling. I'm matching lowest to the highest. If I roll a 5, that's really a 12. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I hope they don't change my book. In the sense of what they're doing. I hope they keep it complex. I want them to keep it complex. I don't want them to dumb it down, and that is probably my biggest concern. I have what they're going to do.
So let's talk about that real quick. I mean, just to end the Nova Open, congratulations again on winning that. I noticed that with that win, you shot up high on the ITC.
I actually scored. I looked at everyone's. I think that's the biggest score out of any game this entire year.
Yeah.
I believe I scored 250 points on the ITC ranking, and I looked at everyone's. I looked at all of Gavin's scores. He scored like 230, 220. Anthony scores because he scores very high as he won Summer Slaughter, like 220, 230, and I'm like, I got 250.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, wow, there's Kaleb all of a sudden in the top 10. Because, I didn't see you even on the leaderboard, unless you expanded it. Now, between the second place finish and the first place finish, that put you up pretty high. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on your golden ticket, being able to take that down to New Mexico. That's going to be amazing. Let's talk about Tzeench book real quick to wrap up this podcast. We're going 2 hours and 20 minutes already, which is one of our longer episodes, but that's great. We've been talking about a lot of good stuff. No, it's good, dude. You're a talker, and that's totally fine. People want to hear what you have to say, so it's good. Tzeench book, right? So Tzeench, fluff-wise, you're talking ambition, you're talking trying to predict the future, you're talking, control the change that's out there. You're talking spells. What things do you think will stay the same from the book, or would you like to? Let's say it this way: what things would you like to stay the same from the book to keep that fluff aspect of it?
So, like I said it before, I like complex, difficult to play armies.
Yes.
Because I don't want a lot of people to play them.
Right.
I don't know if that's a selfish thing to say. I'm not even sure what that is in my mind. I don't like people... I like it like Tzeench is playing a non-Tzeench army 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
That's
You're not gonna
enjoyable.
find those mirror matches.
I do not want to play a mirror match. Oh my god, I do. And that's another reason why I play off-meta weird stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to play mirror match. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
Who can roll a 6? Oh, you did. Okay, you won.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not really fun. That's just whatever.
Yeah, and if you ask the average player, they would say Tzeench is garbage right now. The average player, because they're just like, oh, it's an old book. It sure's got some kind of hinky mechanics, but it's not bright and shiny like some of these other new armies out there that are optimized for 3.0, right?
Tzeench, Justin. Tzeench is the best damn army out there. Nothing beats Tzeench.
Well, you're proving in that.
Nothing can beat. I'm telling you right now, if you know what you're doing, nothing can beat it.
Right. Well, because it has so many aspects about it that kind of cheat, right? You've got your...
Yeah, it's literally dude. I get a cheat with my cheating dice. I get free shit with my shit dice, and I still get an army. My brother's making fun of me the whole game. He's like, Kaleb, I just played 2,900 points to my 2,000.
Yeah, seriously.
And he's like, this is stupid. I'm like, it was pretty great for me.
Yeah, right.
I literally, exactly. It's wild.
So what would you like to see stay the same, or maybe be tweaked a little bit in the
number one thing I would like them to expand is the agendas. A lot of people don't like it. I love it. I love the fact that every hero phase I get to choose something I want to accomplish beyond a battle tactic or in addition to a battle tactic, and if I accomplish it, I take a basic war scroll and I make it slightly better or slightly different.
Nice.
I think that is the coolest damn mechanic that Tzeench has, and if they keep it, I'll be very happy.
Right.
I like that a lot because that brings more choice. Choice in the game is fun. Pigeonholing somebody into a cookie cutter thing, it's not really fun.
Well, and I like things that like you get rewarded, but it costs something, right? Like, so the idea of an agenda, which is like, I actually have to go out and do something to then get the benefit. That's pretty good, rather than just like baking it in,
Yeah, roll a dice, you get an ability. No, I don't like that. But if it says, kill a monster with 12 wounds or more in this turn, and you get +1 to your save. All right, well, is that a good agenda I should use right now? Is that a monster I need to kill? Can I kill that monster? What's the average roll? Am I within 18 inches? Should I do that one?
Yeah.
Or if your opponent controls an objective and you take it from them, you count as double models. So if I have 10 blues, that's now 20 blues on an objective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
or
definitely.
+1 to hit, or +1 to your attacks. I like that hidden agenda is probably the most. In terms of other things I do like the Destiny dice. Some people hate it, and I can understand why, because it is kind of like cheating. But it goes with the fluff,
Right.
I know the future. I don't know the present, and I know the past, right? And knowing that this roll I'm going to pass and I'm going to charge you this turn and you can't do nothing about it, that's knowing the future.
Yeah.
It goes with the theme. But I could also understand why people don't like it, because it's not like you're playing Warhammer. It's pretty much like you're playing, I don't know, checkers or chess. You know what you could do, and there's nothing they could do. My horse moves, 2 up and 1 over, right?
Yep.
I think it's 3 up and 1 over.
That's okay. We know what you mean.
Whatever. But again, it's I like that aspect. The -1 to hit with Tzeench, I don't see where that comes from in the actual thing. I would like them to maybe remove that and add something that's more casting related and spell related and spell dominance related. I would like that to happen. The -1 to hit is nice, of course. I mean, it's powerful, but I don't really see where the theme of the army comes from, that -1 to hit Tzeench characters or Tzeench demon units. I would like them to expand the unit selection and not make obvious things strong. Like, we all know flamers are good. Right? When it first came out, these models, they shoot 3 shots each. The champion shoots 4. They hit on 3s. They win on 3s. They're -1 or 2, and they do D3 damage. Well, fuck me sideways. That's strong.
Yeah.
Right? As long as the points aren't crazy, that's obviously strong, and that makes obvious decisions for people to take. I'm going to min-max flamers. I don't want that. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want obvious corks. But I want a little bit of combat. I want more shooting. I want more magic. I would like the spells to be like, this spell goes off on a 12. Right? But if it goes off,
it's
boy,
gonna be huge.
It's gonna be something good.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think,
I would like to see some crazier spells, but much higher cost. So there's more of a reward for, getting that high casting value spell. I would like to see a lot more spells. personally, I would like to see almost double the amount of spells. Instead of 6 spells, they give me 12,
Right.
and they all do different things, like a Swiss Army knife. I love that aspect of that, but maybe not all damage, and add some more like this unit's going to have +2 to their attacks, or +1 to the hit, or +1 armor save, and you can make it more situational bound to what you want to accomplish throughout the game. Now my Lord of Change, who can shoot 2d6, maybe can shoot 3d6 with the spell, and just a little bit more. Maybe not so much just d6 mortal wounds, just more choice, but more spells. I would like to get rid of. I don't really know what to do, because when you talk about troops, you have whores, which gives you 50 wounds.
Yeah.
Or you have bullshit acolytes.
Right.
All right. So, like, what do we do? Do we fix what people complain about, which is whores, and then you're stuck with 2 shitty units, right? And then, or you're stuck with obvious other choices like flamers, exalted flamers. I would like them to make chariots really good, and actually useful, so that maybe they can expand that line. I'm not a really big fan of the changes I've seen them do with like the Zangors, where they made them 200 points a unit, and they made them more like combat orientated only. Like paper, they have a 5-up save. They have a lot of attacks. I mean, they can get to hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. That's really good.
Yeah.
But for 200 points, like, they better be good, right?
Right.
But I don't feel that 10 are good enough. Like, they have a whole bunch of no-rend hits and a couple -1 hit. Well, how is that going to kill a Gargant? And then now you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll take 20. Well, 20 might be able to get it done, maybe, but I still doubt it. And now you're spending 400 points on a unit that
and if
might
you don't get it done, that Gargant's going to get you back.
Correct. And then you have like a leadership of a 5.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, 1 Horghast endless spell away from losing that whole unit.
Yeah.
Right? They also made Carol Acolytes no longer cast spells, but always have the -1 shooting. I can kind of get behind that, because at the end of the day, they're still kind of fodder. They're still kind of bubble wrap, so I'm a little bit okay with that. I'm concerned that they're going to make all the characters too expensive, but I hope they keep Skyfire similar to what they do now, but they're getting rid of all the reroll hits, so I'm wondering what they're going to do.
Yeah.
It's tough to put a wish list out there. I just want more variety.
Okay. I think that's fair. I wouldn't be surprised to see if they really nerfed a lot of those bonuses to casting. You kind of saw that in a lot of the other books, right? Where you used to have a lot more bonuses to cast, and now like you really have to either put an artifact on there or, find something else. So,
but that's what Tzeench is, and that's the.
No, I hear you. You.
Tzeench is casting, and I believe they should be the best casting thing in the game, right alongside of a Slan.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they should be the Shiznit of casting.
Yeah.
Right.
I hear you, but it's been interesting because you've seen a lot of nerfs to the bonuses to cast, and the ones that have the best ones out there right now are still the 2.0 books.
That's true.
So,
that is very true. Slans. It's Lumineth are good. I feel like Lumineth, Tzeench, and Seraphon are the same damn army.
Yeah, just different.
I really kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you give me my more spells with higher casting for big crazy stuff to happen, I'll be really damn happy with my hidden agendas.
Yeah,
I'll be pumped. But I promise you, no matter what they do to that book, I'll find a way to do well.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt about that whatsoever. You are a student of the game. I know that you said that you don't really study a lot of other people's lists or stuff like that, but you play enough with good people that you've got a very good awareness of like how the mechanics, the underpinning mechanics work, right? So that you kind of understand like, okay, this is a charging army, this is a shooting army, this is a magic army, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that you are able to position yourself well enough. So I've got no doubt that whatever comes with the new Tzeench book, you'll find a way to make it work because you love Tzeench that much. And I'll be curious to happen. When do you think it's going to drop?
Well, I do have an interview with Coach about the new book in October. So
interesting.
I'm assuming It's going to come out either very end of September or very beginning of October.
Because
I'm
they
assuming.
haven't announced it yet, though.
No, they haven't. And they've been very hush hush about it, and
it's not even on the roadmap.
No, it was on the
be.
road. They sent a picture of it on the roadmap.
Did it when?
I can't. I saw it a week ago, I believe. I saw a picture
ago?
of the actual Tzeench book on there.
I didn't see it a week ago because what I was going to say is during Nova they dropped a couple of books.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Whoa, what happened?" And that one of those was like the idea of the Gloom Spite, right? And that got pushed to like next year. So,
yeah.
And everybody's like, "No word on Tzeench," and it was like, "Oh," like everybody was assuming that was going to be the Fall Chaos book, before.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I would be completely happy if they don't touch my book.
I know you would be. I think
I'd be so pumped.
I think everyone at the U.S. Open out there is like, okay, when is Kaleb getting his new book?
Like, you say that though, but I remember when the Tzeench book first came out, man. You could take. I literally remember my list. It was like 18 Skyfires, which we know they're ridiculous. 2 Zangor Shamans, right? I bubble wrapped my whole force with 30 Marauders.
Uh-huh.
I had Karo Sandlord of Change. Like, it was just wild how crazy broken that was. And every 5-up you rolled was was D3 Mortal Wounds with your Skyfire. So you're like, all right, take 6 D3 Mortals every turn plus all these spell casting with the. Oh, it was just wild.
Back when Age of Sigmar was still finding its footing.
Oh yeah, no, it was just that was ridiculous back then.
So, well, congratulations! I wish you the best at this event in New Mexico. When is it exactly?
It's the weekend of November 20th.
Okay.
I have to fill up my flight details. They just sent me the little notification, which is it's just such a cool thing,
Yeah, that sounds so awesome.
Yeah, I believe. Let me see the exact time. It is. November, I believe it's the 18th through the 20th.
Okay. So like the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. Well, I wish you the best of luck at that. You'll have to give us an update on the Tzeench book after you kind of dig into it and let us know. And but thank you for coming on the podcast, man. It was a pleasure talking with you. It was good to kind of go through your games and see how you think. Because you do have a very good list, you have a powerful list, but you also know and love your list, and it's also how you pilot it as well. And so there's times that you were subtly said, well, I didn't choose this, or I decided to do that to make them make a decision or something. That that's where your experience and expertise comes out, and that's really what takes you or propels you from being a very good general to a great general. So congratulations, and thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Everybody else, thank you so much for listening to our episode tonight. We hope you like it. If you did like it, please give us a like and a share. And hey, if you are listening to us on iTunes, on Spotify, or even on Google, please leave us a review. If you want to give us a couple of stars, if you want to give us 5 stars, I'm not going to complain. But if you can give us a review, it helps show the algorithm with other people and let them know that we're out there. So thank you very much for listening, and everybody, you have a great night.